Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi out here. It's Sunday morning. We're doing a special book report, and we're going over a bit talking about DeMar DeRozan's new book, Above the Noise. It's a fantastic book. I read it on Friday, and it's actually really easy read. Well, I had a harder time reading Prehistoric by Alex Wong because it took longer, and it was just a little bit more of a tedious read. But DeMar's was interesting because as soon as I picked up the book and got into it, it flowed right through itself. And next thing I know, I had finished it in a few hours or so. So, yeah, it's really good. I have my copy right here. I have to thank once again David Saborin, trivia commissioner and champion of trivia and all kinds of other stuff he's won on this channel, for giving me this copy, this signed copy by DeMar. It's a very, very good book. First of all, I don't want to give away stuff in the book so that you feel like you don't need to buy it. So there is so much in it that I'm not going to cover today, and it is totally, totally worth buying. And I'm very, very proud of the country of Canada for putting this book #1 on the bestsellers list right now. It's a big deal, and it means a lot to DeMar. Trust me. He is a very sensitive guy. And the more I read this book, the more I understood just what makes him tick and why what matters to him matters to him. And that's the really cool thing about this. He's a real one. In some ways, we have people in life that aren't totally real ones in different ways, in all kinds of ways. But this guy's always going to be a real one. And his history with this city right here is ensconced forever. And he's proud of it. And he doesn't like crap on it in looking back at it. He doesn't regret it. He doesn't think that what he did building up our Raptors culture over the decade of the 2010s wasted time. He does not. Everything that he did with the Raptors was very crucial and important to his career. I mean, it's the thing. DeMar DeRozan is one of the very few players in the NBA that ever scored over 50,000 points. And to get to that pinnacle, to get to that kind of scoring in the NBA, you have to be consistent. You have to be very good for a long time. And that's the thing. The way he goes about his business and he does his NBA career is a testament to that achievement of doing that kind of stuff. There's so much in here. And we're going to talk about bits and of it here and there as we go. There's some stuff in this book that he talked about that I did not think he would talk about. This book runs pretty current right up until present time right now, as far as he covers things like his daughter at the playing game with the Toronto Raptors when she yelled a lot. He covers some of the stuff that happened in the most recent years as far as the births of his most recent children. And also, you know, the fallout of over really important people's deaths to him. That DeMar has had a thing that he's had to deal with his whole life, with the idea of death and somebody dying, passing away, because he had to face it when he was very young, right away in Compton, with family members getting gunned down and going to a lot of funerals when he was a kid. And well, in the book, he talks about how at a certain point in his life, he got himself detached from Compton and everything that's going on there. So he didn't have to deal with all the misery of the deaths of people dying and getting murdered. But he got touched by it again later on in life when Nipsey Hussle got murdered in front of his store. That really impacted him in a major way. And then, of course, the death of Kobe Bryant, his mentor and his hero, and somebody who was very, very close friend of his, in the helicopter crash with his daughter. That part's kind of really sad, because DeMar talks about how he was just about to take DR DeRozan to Kobe's camp, and she was going to start training with Kobe's daughter. So it's really, really sad. And in some ways, the other part that's sad is DeMar's house looks out on the crash site where Kobe crashed. So these recent deaths made him touched again by the feelings of sadness that had to do with death. And he kind of separated from that and hadn't felt in a while. And then his father's death, that was really, really sad. That's a very, very sad part in this book, because his dad, Frank, passed away during the COVID pandemic, and he was not able to be around him near the end of his life. Nobody in his family was. And that part of the book is really sad, really, really sad, the way DeMar talks about all that. But this thing is so interwoven with introspection, growth, looking at yourself and trying to get through tough stuff, because there's so much stuff that he had to deal with in different ways that it got thrown at him. And really, you got to think about, DeMar, since he got traded to the Spurs from Toronto, a lot of bad stuff has happened to him since. And it's been really, really tough for him to navigate his mental health at times. And that, the whole thing that happened with him with the tweet about his mental health happened before he got traded. So he was already feeling the doldrums of depression before the San Antonio trade. And it only exasperated things, trust me. But man, there's a couple of points in this book where I started getting emotional myself. Obviously, it was hard for me to hear him talk about dealing with the trade. He really explicitly goes through the whole thing that happened and from his point of view, and how he was blindsided by the trade to San Antonio. It's very, very interesting. But all those details I'll say for you to read in this book. Yeah, there's man, it's deep. The 2 points where I got really emotional were, first of all, DeMar very much, very conflicted when we won the championship. He talks very extensively about his feelings about the Raptors winning in 20. He talks very extensively about the confusion of wanting to be happy for Toronto and the people of Toronto and Canada and his old teammates, and then also being selfish and thinking about, well, I should have been there, and being upset about that. It's really heartbreaking to hear DeMar talk about how he should have been in our big, huge parade with over a million people on the streets of Toronto watching there, and how hard it was for him to see all of what he had pre-visualized as a rapper for most of his career with him in the middle of it and him not being there. That was really, really hard for him. But there were 2 things that really, really helped him get back right with the Raptors and Toronto. And they were, first of all, after the championship, Fred, Norman, Pascal, Kyle, all the Raptors that played with DeMar over the years leading up to the championship, they immediately reached out to him after they won and made him feel special as far as a part of what happened with us winning the championship. I give kudos so much to Kyle Lowry, Norman Powell, Pascal Siakam, and Fred VanVleet for reaching out to DeMar and making him a part of the Raptors championship celebration and telling him basically in text, we don't do this without you, man. And that went a long way because it showed his peers had the respect to him to reach out and give him credit for building the team up to get to the championship. Without this guy, we don't get that championship in 2019. As much as idiot Raptors toxic fans had called him DeFrozen and all kinds of BS and making fun of him after we traded him, well, he didn't deserve that at all. In some ways, we need to give him credit for helping us get to the level where we were able to strike for Larry O'Brien. And that's amazing. So that point really made me happy. And then the second place where it made me really, really emotional and feel better was him describing his first game back in Toronto as a Spur in that first year and him hearing the ovation from the crowd. I'm going to tell you this right now. When we do this thing where we stop the game or we have a timeout near the beginning of the game and we honor a former Raptor, it matters to these guys. Some of them, they don't show any response or do anything to acknowledge it. But DeMar said that moment when they did the video tribute to him in his first game back in Toronto on the Spurs, he really meant a lot to him. And to hear our fans come out and chant and cheer for him, like honestly, the stuff with him and us, the fans of Toronto, has never been messed up. It has never been messed up. And he very clearly separates it all in the book, talking about, well, this is this and this is this. And he understands it's a business and it's the front office. But the fans were never, ever actually somebody that he was mad at when it came to this kind of stuff. Sure, at some points, probably there were some troll fans that said some out-of-pocket stuff, and he got mad at that. Sure, maybe there were a couple times where somebody was ugly and really mean to him, and he was like, screw that guy. But once again, I'll tell people that these guys, NBA players, they know who the trolls are, and they know who the real fans are too. And they know they got real ones. And boy, does he have real ones. We saw recently at the book signing here in Toronto, people come out like crazy and give him the love and stuff like that. So There were a couple moments in the book that just made me really, really happy. And then there were some real heartbreakers too. So yeah, look in the comments. We're talking Above the Noise, DeMar DeRozan's book right now. And yeah, there's some really interesting stuff. One of the things that he talks about in this book that I did not realize he would talk about is the attempt to get him on Lakers in recent years. He goes explicitly into just how much LeBron had promised him to be a Laker in this book. And I'm going to tell you what, reading that part made me realize just how much he was disappointed by that. That is in the book as one of the things that was messing with his mental health, because the kind of bait and switch that the Lakers did that summer by going with Russell Westbrook instead of him caught him by surprise, just like the Raptors trade to San Antonio. And there's a little bit of like kind of upset and a little not too happy about how he was jerked around with the Lakers that summer when he should have became a Laker. And honestly, reading the book made me realize more and more just how important playing for the Lakers it would be for DeMar DeRozan. But let's not get it twisted. DeMar never ever wanted to leave here. He explicitly says in the book a couple times, I wanted to be like Reggie Miller. I wanted to be like Larry Bird. I wanted to be like these guys, Tim Duncan, that played their whole entire career for one team. He really wanted to do that for us. And he also talks very extensively about being very cognizant and aware of what Vince Carter and Chris Bosh did to us and how it made our city feel. In fact, he was there when Chris did it, so he felt it as a teammate when Chris Bosh took his services to South Beach with LeBron James. Now, in some ways, he said, man, I don't like what these guys have done to this fan nation. I love Toronto so much, and the fans, I would never do that to them. That he really was like that. He still is in some ways. It's just that he got done wrong, and in some ways, I got to go and play in other places around the league. So, man, it's such a good book. And as I said, it's very extensive. It goes from his birth and being really young all the way up until present day. And the way that it's written and the way he's been saying in interviews recently, there's going to be another book. And his story is not fully written. And that there's going to be a part 2 to this book. I'm going to tell you that right now. As he lives his life, and maybe when he goes through the rest of his career, which he's kind of intimated is another 3 more years he's going to play in the league, is what he's been saying in interviews, that he will probably write a book about his rest of his career and everything that comes after it. So Toronto Raptors, let's make it special for him when he retires. And let's not delay. Let's get him done with the retirement stuff immediately, front office of the Raptors, because I want to read that in his next book. And I want to read more about the shared love between the Raptors fans and DeMar DeRozan. Because, oh, man, it's such a beautiful thing. Now, there's all kinds of themes in this book that are important, whether it's gang violence, whether it's being a father, whether it's dealing with your demons. There's all noise book. I highly recommend it, y'all. It's #1 on the bestseller list here in Canada. I recommend anybody go get this because, honestly, there's something in this book that you will probably read, and it may help you mentally. You know, one of the biggest lessons for DeMar in the year of the Raptors championship was acceptance. That he had to learn to live life on life's terms, and that this is the present, and this is the way it is, and I have to accept it. That was hard for him. He couldn't watch the playoffs when we were running to the championship. In some ways, he went to a party the night the Raptors won, he describes, and he said he didn't want to see a TV anywhere near him because he did not want to see it because in some ways it was painful. And that's understandable. But, you know, in some ways, he's very happy that Canada and Toronto got to celebrate this championship. Of course, he's very, very happy for his old teammates. And, you know, he's not hating on this. In some ways, he wishes he had been involved in it himself. But he's really happy it happened for our team. And honestly, he can understand and extrapolate the dots to connect them to his part in why we won the Larry O'Brien in 2019. So yeah, I cannot say it more anymore. I've said this about Alex Wong's prehistoric book recently. Go get this book. Don't mess around. There's a lot of detail in it. There's a lot of insight. There's some stuff that I'm shocked he included in it because it's so personal and so open. so open about what he deals with and what he's going through. He's a strong, courageous person, and man, he's above basketball at this point. That's the thing. A lot of people have been saying this in interviews that what you're doing transcends the game because it's doing something on a whole other level and a new level of game for mental health game as far as helping people. And DeMar really does enjoy giving back. There's two things he really feels good about. And sometimes he's in public and people in public will come up to him and say, "Thank you for speaking out on mental health. You really helped me out." And DeMar's like, "What do you mean? I'm nothing like you, man. You're like an old white guy." And he's like, "No, you don't even understand. You helped me be able to express my feelings and get something out there." That's all he wants. He says this in interviews these days. He said, "If I help one person, I've done a good thing." And man, there's so much in this. He really has some interesting opinions on the new NBA and where the NBA is. He has a really interesting opinions on what an NBA player's duties and responsibilities as a player are. Like, he really doesn't like players that just coast on their talents. Like, he says, you're getting paid millions of dollars to play this game. You should be going and endeavoring to further your skills. That he he always, every offseason, we know as Raptors fans, he came back with new tricks in the bag. And he can't stand the young players that just play off their talent and aren't working on their game to get even better. The difference between DeMar DeRozan and those players is 16 years and 50,000 points. Those young men that are coming in, like Ben Simmons, they're talented as hell, could do all kinds of stuff. Well, they just aren't, their heart's not in it. And that's why they won't achieve the things that DeMar DeRozan has done as a technician, a mechanic of basketball who's in there tinkering with the engine of his game all the time. Some people are just like, I'm good. I'm in the NBA. I got the money. I'm good. Well, DeMar doesn't respect that. And he said that there's a lot of people in the NBA that are like this at this point. And the old heads that are doing interviews these days, they echo this stuff. Oscar Robertson, Dominique Wilkins. Yeah, they're saying the same thing as DeMar. So in some ways, DeMar is a throwback for being like that. I love it. All right, Monique is here first in the chat. Good morning, Raptor Freak crew. Definitely early for the book report. Go, Debo. Well, it's not. I'm late, Mo. This book came out 2 weeks ago on September 10th, and I am late. If it had been early, it would have been before the 10th. I was late on Prehistoric because I had gotten it almost a year later on time. And it's great. It's only because you haven't gotten your book yet. That's why you're saying it's early. No, this is the perfect time for me to do this book report. Let's see. Trevor saying, good morning, family. On our bad days, we seek you. On good days, we thank you. And on great days, we praise you. But every day we need you. Thank you, God, for always being here for us. There you go, Trevor J. I like that, especially on a Sunday when a lot of people are going down to their places of faith and showing a devotion to whatever they believe in. So, yeah. This is a thing to have every single day, no matter what day it is. If it's good or bad, find a way to praise your higher power and show that you're humbled as a person because without that higher power, you're nothing. So I love that, Trevor. Good stuff. Monique saying good turnout. The Raptors 905 tryouts. My nephew went. Okay, my nephew enjoyed it. Oh, okay. So yeah, Monique has a nephew that actually tried out for the 905 yesterday. And who knows? We'll have to see what comes of it. And hopefully, maybe Monique's nephew has some sort of callback and is showing up. But that's really cool. I thought that was so awesome that your nephew went down there, Monique. And I wish him all the luck in the world to hopefully make Coach Andrew Jones's team coming up this season. So yeah, that's fantastic. It did seem like the 905 tryouts were well attended. And hopefully they found some good talent down there. Tom Duke talking about that player who's following already showing up down there. We'll have to see what happens. Trevor saying, I love how Coach Allen broke down what type of player Jacoby will dominate the NBA. Yeah, that's an interesting clip by Coach Allen. I like Coach Allen. I used to watch him extensively, but I don't watch him as much anymore. But it was nice to see his clip pop up recently in the Facebook chat for our group. And I think that in some ways he's stretching things on the Jacoby thing. I mean, some of the people in the comments are saying, yeah, this isn't going to age well. I don't know. The haters going to hate. Some people think that Jacoby Walter is not going to be a very good NBA player. Some people like Coach Allen are saying, well, he's going to be unstoppable because of this, and this. I tend to agree with Alan on a lot of things because he does really know basketball, and he does make really good YouTube content. So, but we'll have to see. Nothing's proven. And like some of the people said in the comments, nothing can be said this is going to happen when you're making the transition from college to the NBA. You can't just say blanketly, well, this is what's going to happen. Even with somebody like Victor Wembanyama, they had ideas about what was going to happen, but he didn't come in and do exactly what they thought he would in his rookie year. So I would hold judgment on this. I think Coach Allen's looking at the signs, and some of the stuff he's pointing out is valid. But also at the same time, we have to stress test this in the big lights of the NBA courts and the pressure and the different other settings. And in some ways, we can show highlights of Baylor and Jacoby Walter going off and say this and say that. But until it is tested on the big league in the big settings, I can't go with this yet. I think that Coach Allen's maybe a little early on this, is what I'm saying. Trevor's saying, DeMar let us know about Raptors players' locker room fights. Crazy. Yeah, this isn't in the book. This is on Lou Williams' podcast that came out in the last 3 days. There's a really good interview with former Raptor Lou Williams. And it's the interview where he talks about why he thinks he didn't get re-signed with the Raptors because of his two girlfriends in the Drake song 6 Man. This interview is so good. In some ways, I love it because it's a very Raptors-centric interview with two former Raptors that very much love each other a lot. I mean, DeMar basically in this interview says, we were working to set up Lou Williams on getting that 6 Man. That year he won the 6 Man on the Raptors. That all the teammates on the basically setting him up and trying to help him get there. There's a lot of this in the NBA with teams that care about. They will try and help each other get accolades and different things like that. So a big part of Lou Williams getting his 6 Man was DeMar and them helping him and setting him up and putting him in the light as over that course of that season to get him to the 6 Man. But yeah, there's all kinds of great stories shared on that. I highly recommend it. It's so fun. Some of this stuff is talking about the book and talking about why he wrote it and different things about that. There's a lot of interesting things. Like I found out that Lou Williams believes that Joel Embiid shouldn't have played for the United States at the Olympics. He thinks it's a joke, just like I do. And he made fun of it also. He thinks it's really stupid that he played for USA. And then DeMar, of course, was talking about a fight. And this is what Trevor's talking about. Reggie Evans was one of the veterans that DeMar cited as a very important old head when he first came in the league as a rookie on the Raptors, that Reggie was crazy. And he was saying that Reggie Evans only cared about getting his rebounds. Like, that's what he was known for. He'd get a lot of rebounds, Reggie Evans. And well, there was a game once where they were playing and James Johnson was on the Raptors at that time. And James kept stealing rebounds from Reggie Evans. And Reggie says, if you keep taking my rebounds, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker. And he wanted to beat him up in the middle of the game, and they waited. And then after the game, they did actually fight in the locker room. This is Raptors, same team. And Reggie Evans cared that much about getting his rebounds that he wanted to fight Kung Fu black belt master James Johnson in the locker room. And it was funny, DeMar saying that, like, I didn't even care about whether we won the game or not that day. I was so worried about this fight because I knew it was coming, and we were all rushing into the back locker room to see what was happening. And apparently nobody wanted to get in the middle of it because in some ways Reggie Evans and James Johnson are both very imposing men that are, you don't want to get in the middle of if they're about to scrap. But one man did. And Lou Williams said, even in the interview, said Amir's a little slow. Amir Johnson jumped in and tried to break it up. And as soon as he grabbed James Johnson took Amir's arm and flipped it into a power pressure point like hold. And Amir let go of him. So this is this kind of stuff that we don't have any clue about with the NBA and stuff and weird things and personalities. We see Open Gym, but Open Gym puts a certain face on the team. And they're not, of course, Open Gym's not going to cover this fight or anything like that. I don't even know if Open Gym was there right then. This may have been before the switch with Masai to being in charge from Colangelo when there was Reggie Evans and James Johnson on the team at that point. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I don't even know. But the Open Gym segments from this would have been amazing. DeMar does talk about Masai a bit in the book. He talks about when he first met him, because when the Raptors first scouted him in Oakland, Masai was there as a scout for the Raptors. He was not the president and the GM at that time. He was with Brian Colangelo, who was in charge at that time. And DeMar talks about how he was really impressed with Colangelo. Colangelo came in wearing a suit, and he was very like charismatic, and he knew about his history with his father and the stuff he had done in the NBA already. So he was really like hook, line, and sinker with the Raptors. This is the crazy thing. DeMar wanted to be a Raptor before the draft. He was hoping for it so much that when the Minnesota Timberwolves invited him to come and train for them to pre-draft, he ignored the message and didn't go to Minnesota. So I would say this right here. People that say nobody wants to come to Toronto, well, ask DeMar DeRozan. He wanted to come to Toronto over the Timberwolves. Now, granted, the Timberwolves were a mess at that time in different ways, and it probably wasn't that much difference in weather, but that's what I'm saying. Some people won't talk about that, but DeMar very explicitly in his book says he skipped the pre-draft workout with the Timberwolves, who had 2 draft picks in that draft before the Raptors, just because he did not want to get drafted by them. So that's pretty interesting little tidbit of information from the book that was very, very interesting about that. Yeah, good stuff. Of course, the book has stuff in it, but not like that fight. And then go watch the media tour he's doing. That Lou Williams interview is so good. It's so good. And DeMar DeRozan is just really, really interesting in the interview. Very candid. And of course, Lou Williams being funny. And he also talks a lot about Toronto and his feelings about Toronto and being on the Raptors for 1 year and winning a 6th Man of the Year. So, yeah, he was kind of hurt that he didn't come back. He really did want to continue to play for the Raptors. But they said that it is basically the front office did not like Lou Williams' lifestyle of having 2 girlfriends and that being so public, and that was part of the reason why he wasn't invited back. I don't know if that's totally true. There's a couple different reasons why probably Lou Williams wasn't brought back. It could have been money. It could have been also the fact that he didn't play very good defense, and the Raptors were valuing that at that time. So there are a couple of reasons, I'm sure, right there. Yeah, those fight stories are crazy, and there's all kinds of crazy, fun stories in his book too. Let's see. Monique's saying, describe the Raptors offseason in one word. I don't know. I mean, Mo, that's interesting. Long. I guess that would be the one. Long is what the right answer is, I think. The offseason has been very long. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. Jump way ahead. Let's see. Monique saying Scotty also giving it back in the community because that's what these guys do best. CTV with the report first. Well, we know Scott really enjoys teaching kids. And if there's going to be any kind of group of kids anywhere in Toronto, in Florida, in different places, he's going to be all about going and giving them back and teaching the kids. So I'm not surprised by this. In some ways, this is a way that Scotty gets some joy and happiness from being around the energy of the children. We see him out on the court with them. He's like playing around and messing with them, like snapping the ball away from them and stuff like that. But this is a common occurrence at these times. Now, even during the season, you'll see Scotty going play with kids, and also he's done his summer camps this summer already. So this is pretty common thing. Andrew's saying, "Good morning, freaks. 14 days until Raptors basketball, only 2 weeks. Hope everyone is having a great weekend." There you go, Andrew. I love it. That's Muggsy Bogues' number. 14 days until the Raptors are playing in Bell Center in Montreal against the Washington Wizards. And we'll be ready. I mean, I've been ready all summer. I'll be ready when that comes up. Yeah, you know I will. I'll have my preview, all the pertinent information, injury report, ref report, all the fun stuff we do on a Raptors Freak preview day when there's a game. Yeah, I set y'all up for the game real nice in the morning. So be ready for that. I'm excited to get back into game schedule and doing previews and reactions to all the games. Let's see. Cowboys saying, "Good morning, Lex." Dab to you, Cowboy and Raptors Freak. 14 days left. Let's effing go. That's right, Bradley. Before we know it, it'll be here in 2 weeks. Wow. So does that mean that the game's on a Sunday? The Bell Center game? I'm trying to think. Like, it's the 6th. What is the day of the week? Maybe it is on a Sunday. It may be a Sunday. Yeah. Monique saying, "Lex, Bruce Brown posted on his Instagram stories back soon." Well, that's great, Bruce. A lot of people are not very happy with you. waiting so long in the summer to take your surgery. In some ways, yeah, I was trying to speak him up yesterday and say, well, maybe he tried to heal it naturally this summer and he had to get it still because it's not right. But still, either way, back soon. Okay, Bruce, please just get better and get back out on the court so we can trade you. That's what I would say right there. Cowboys got the team on blast here. He's got RJ, Emmanuel, Grady, Bruce, Scotty, Jonathan, and Ulrich, and there's Mo and me. What a roster. There you go. Yeah. A lot of people are wondering about this. I mean, Bleacher Report calling us mid. Apparently, that whole thing about Bleacher Report calling us mid in the last couple of days, they've been really mean and nasty to other teams. So in some ways, mid, in some ways, maybe nice for us. We don't know what we are yet. In some ways, somebody calling us mid, I wouldn't be upset about that because we can't say whether we're going to be mid or not because we could be mid. And actually, mid might be very good for us because to me could be like 500. And if we're right around 500, that's a successful season for the Raptors. So in some ways, I don't get upset at what Bleacher Report said about the Raptors recently. Now, this is the funny thing. Like I said, in the book, DeMar reveals that he read everything, all the criticisms, all the social media stuff. He was on there looking at it, whether somebody was saying he can't shoot the three, when somebody was saying he can't go this direction, whether somebody was saying that he can't do this with his game. You know what? He took it as active constructive criticism, and he literally would try and prove everybody wrong. That's why he was like reading all this stuff. He'd feed it into himself, and he'd go out there and change his game. That's why he started shooting threes at one point, because in some ways the Raptors were pressuring him to shoot more threes, but also that was a knock on him. And he saw people talking about it on social media. And he said, this is bullshit. I'm going to go and shoot threes, and I'll prove them all wrong. You know, another thing that really fuels DeMar is his anger. That this is something that I remember when he was a young Raptor, that he always looked like he was scowling. He was pissed off. He was disturbed, and he was not happy. And this is true. He was. In some ways, he was still dealing with all of the unsorted feelings from his childhood and all the crazy things that he had kind of seen and been around and living in Compton in the middle of a gang war zone. And, you know, he talks very extensively about losing his best friend to gang warfare. And yeah, it's just sad. In some ways, that anger was unrealized in him, and he was unconscious about it. And it was really making him the player he was. That was his outlet. And he said that the more angry he got, the better he played. So some players can't do this in the NBA. Some ways they get angry and they screw up and they make too many fouls or they can't stay in the game. But DeMar really found that tightrope to walk with his anger and really focus it in the right kind of ways to get good results on the court. So that really is a big thing that drives him, is his anger and people that slight him. And in some ways, he cares about a lot. And that was all really good locker room fodder to get him the gumption to go out and take people out on the court by beating them and doing whatever. Like, yeah, he's that kind of old school player, like Jordan, like Kobe. These guys look for slights from other people, and it would feed them wanting to destroy them on the court. You know, he also talks very extensively about becoming a Chicago Bull and really feeling the tradition of being a Bull in the sense of Michael Jordan's legacy and taking it very seriously. This is part of the reason why DeMar, when he was on the Bulls, really got endeared with the Bulls Nation, is because in some ways, DeMar DeRozan was the closest thing to Michael Jordan that's been on that team since Michael Jordan. And he really respects the legacy of Michael Jordan, the feelings of being in that arena that he played in also, everything. I mean, they play Sirius by Alan Parsons Project, just like they did when Michael played there. And it's easy to kind of, in some ways, not cosplay, but kind of fall into the same shoes of feeling like this is Michael. I'm wearing the same Bulls uniform and his jersey's up there, and I'm representing his old team. And in some ways, it was very sacred to DeMar playing for the Bulls, and very much respecting the things about Michael Jordan in that city. And even like he's very proud that he broke some of the records that Michael did in different ways around the team. And once again, the Bulls fans really did fall in love with him because he was really Jordan-esque, like the most Jordan-esque player to ever play after Jordan on the Bulls. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good. stuff. Yeah, Andrew saying kind of weird how Bruce waited this long to get the surgery. Yeah, some people say this is fishy. Some people say this is him avoiding trying to play for the Raptors. I don't know. Either way, you gained some points with us this summer by being present at events for the Raptors, but now you're getting some points deducted for this really bad timing on your surgery this week. Cowboys saying I probably won't get around to reading DeRozan's book, but I know he's a real one and will always be in my good books. Yeah, I listen. If I feel bad that I questioned this stuff this summer because of the Kendrick Lamar song, and he really does double down on the whole thing in interviews more recently about what this is about. That lyric, Kendrick wrote that song. DeMar didn't write that song. And that song really is exactly what I've been saying, that it's supposed to unite the Bloods and the Crips and all the gangs in Compton and get them to stop fighting with each other. That in some ways that is a uniting song because it's trying to stop the stuff that Lamar and DeMar came from. So it's tough because as outsiders from the outside seeing it, yeah, we're not like them. But it isn't the beef battle between Kendrick Lamar and Drake that's important about this. It's about unifying the city of Compton and stopping the violence. And that's the thing that matters the most to DeMar. It's not about the battle between Drake and Kendrick. In some ways, DeMar loves Drake. And he said on Lou Will's podcast that he has not called him or talked to him since the video, but he knows he's good with him. And he's confident that he's not worried about anything with him and Drake, that him and Drake are still cool. And if they had to talk, they would talk and they'd be fine. So, I mean, there's a lot of respect there DeMar has for Drake still in Kendrick Lamar's video. And this is the thing. We can come and look at that whole situation from our own consciousness. And it's not exactly how he's looking at it from everything in that way. So let's see what else is going on here. He's definitely a real one for us. And him coming to Toronto for his book tour and going to Cam H and everything he's been saying. And honestly, when people like David and people went down there and showed the love for him, that meant a lot. Like, seriously, he really does get a lot of feelings. He said that the ovation that the Toronto Raptors crowd gave him the first time he came back as a Spur was one of the best moments of his career. He said that, seriously. The video tribute and the standing ovation that everybody gave him in that arena that night, what really meant a lot to him. And I'm sure it healed him a lot too, as far as things, because, in some ways, getting cast aside, like what happened with him with the Raptors team, you start to wonder if anybody really cared about you up there, that you get done so dirty. And, that just confirmed, it's like, no, everything's still there. The fans were mad too. And a lot of people said that since, like Raptors fans have said, we were mad at Masai, mad at Toronto Raptors organization for doing DeMar dirty too. So he understands that there's real ones. You can go back and look at my streams from those games because they're on the archive. And on the days when we were playing DeMar that year, I was rooting for the Spurs. I was like, yeah, we did him wrong, and I want us to lose to the Spurs. And it's very interesting. He talks about when the Raptors came to San Antonio for the first time with Kawhi on our team and how much the city of San Antonio and the teammates of Kawhi were mad at Kawhi. And in some ways, DeMar said it wasn't even me versus the Raptors when we were in San Antonio. It was about my old Spurs teammates and Kawhi. And they wanted to beat him worse than I wanted to beat the Raptors because they had that much animosity towards what Kawhi Leonard did on his departure out of San Antonio. So DeMar was like, I'll help you guys. But they were all very determined to beat us in that game, and they did. When we went to San Antonio the year of our championship, we lost to DeMar DeRozan and the Spurs. And part of it was because those Spurs players really, really wanted to beat Kawhi for their fans and for themselves. And then he said when he recounts the game here in Toronto, when he came and played in Toronto for the first time, he talks about the ovation. And then he talks about at the end of the game where he lost the ball and Kawhi took it and dunked it, and we won the game here against him. This is the thing. In DeMar's book, he doesn't just talk about all the sunshiny success moments. He also talks about his failures, and he's not afraid to talk about them. He brings up LeBronto. He brings up the frustration of playing against the Cleveland Cavaliers those couple years and not getting past them on the Raptors. He brings all that stuff up. And in some ways, he wants to show the dichotomy between failure and success in his book, and shows that it's just part of it, that there's going to be failure mixed with success. And in some ways, that doesn't totally define you. In fact, he talks about the moment where Kyle Lowry was trying to make that score on Washington, on the Brooklyn Nets, the first time they got in the playoffs all together, and it was Game 7. And you know the play: Kyle Lowry comes down the lane, Paul Pierce hits him, and he fouls him, but there's no call, and the game's over. And he talks about coming over to Kyle at that moment and picking him off the ground and say, "You did great. I'm riding with you no matter what, even if we just lost this game." That mattered to him. In some ways, he is such a real one, guys. He's a real one for his city. He's a real one for his family. He's a real one for his people and his friends. And he is a real one for Toronto still, even though we did him wrong. It hasn't changed anything. In some ways, he became more businesslike after he got traded to the Spurs. In some ways, he didn't want to have an emotional connection to anything after that, as far as the city he plays in, because he really did buy in, and he really did love Toronto. He still does, but he really, really did want to be that guy. He really, really did. And it's heartbreaking to read the disappointment and getting moved like that. It really is a big, big part of the story in the Above the Noise. Yeah. David is here. He's dapping in. David, once again, thank you for sending this book. I want to show you guys once again the signature of him, where he signed in the book. It's just a little plate, and it's got a little like scribble of a DD on it. But yeah, that's the signature by DeMar in the book. You can see the little squiggle under on the basketball. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Above the Noise, forward by Greg Popovich. Yeah, I'm really happy that we traded him to the Spurs. That may have been very crucial for DeMar to get through all this in a healthy way, because in some ways, Greg Popovich is kind of like a shrink. He's very much a very considerate, amazing human being. Like, all the crazy stories about Pop are true. He just goes above and beyond, and he really has been there for DeMar at every step, and sad things happening, whether it's his father dying, whether it's getting traded to the Spurs. In some ways, DeMar was lost after the trade. And the person who kind of pulled him in and helped give him guidance and get him back on track was Coach Popovich. So in some ways, I have all the admiration and love for Coach Pop as a Spurs fan also. Yeah, he's just an icon, and he's the real deal Holyfield. And if you really want to understand like how to be a good person, go check out Coach Popovich. Seriously, he's a good person. All right, David's here. So we're going to do the classic card of the day. David's at 9:32. So I'll go ahead and come on back to 9:32 after we do this card here. And we got to finish up this box because we're going to be opening the big new box that Trevor has, fresh ones coming out. So, all right, here's the card for today. Whoever writes in the full name first will get the trivia points. David is here, so we'll let him do the adjudicating. So here is the card. Let's see who knows who this player is. Who is the classic card of the day, guys? It looks like a sun. That's what that looks like to me. Somebody may know this one. Maybe Smooth's here. If Smooth's here, he might know it. I'm pretty sure Smooth will probably know who this is. We'll have to see. Kevin Johnson's a great guess, but it's wrong. That is a Johnson, though. That is not Kevin, though. Isaac Campbell calling the Kevin Johnson. Smooth knows it's Frank Johnson. That's right. It is Frank Johnson today, guys. I'm pretty sure we've had Frank Johnson in a couple of cards before. But yeah, we're going to do Frank Johnson again today of the Phoenix Suns. That's right. So there we go. 100 points to Smooth, adjudicated by David Saborin. Thank you, David, for doing what you do. And David, I have a plan for the trivia already this week, and I'll be able to take care of it on my own. I know you've been busy this weekend. So, David, don't worry about doing the trivia this week. I'll go ahead and write them up myself, and we'll have them ready for Tuesday because I know you've had a busier weekend than usual. And I want you to just chill out. And don't worry, I'm going to handle it tomorrow. I got a really interesting idea for the trivia tomorrow. All right, 9:32. Let's see where we are in the chat and to get back on track. All right, Cowboys saying, I guess Bruce won't be ready for the season opener. I'm okay with that. We're stacked. Yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. I was talking to my cousin's husband yesterday, and he's saying, like, are we in trouble? We don't have any bench. And I said, well, we may have a bench sooner than later. It just depends on how our new bench mob starts to gel and how quickly they can possibly mimic the era of Fred and Jakob and Pascal from like almost 10 years ago. So we need these guys to show up because our starters are pretty good. but we're a little questionable on the bench. So there's a ton of opportunity for Raptors this season to step up and make a name for themselves, whether it's one of the 5 rookies, whether it's Grady Dick, whether it's Ochai Agbaji. There are opportunities for young players on the Raptors to take bigger roles and take more responsibilities and be more regularly dependable for the Raptors in trying to achieve wins. So that's the thing. We know there's certain starters. The barbecue yak will be set and be very, very good for us. But the question marks start after that. And that's where we need to see who's going to step up and be a part of the regular rotation because they're helping us immensely. It could very well be there is a Chris Boucher renaissance because he is helping us in so many ways. He's going to be maybe like a 6-man off the bench playing more for us. I know Boucher fans would love that. There's no guarantees on what I just said, but the possibility of it happening is there this year because the Raptors are going to need all hands on deck, and the guys who are playing the best are going to be those guys that become the rotation. And that's going to be very interesting because it's wide open. There's, with the 5 rookies and some of the more veteran bench players like Kelly Olynyk and Chris Boucher, it'll be very interesting to see how we do this. In some ways, the balance between vets and trying to win and developing the young guys and making mistakes, we'll have to see exactly what is kind of ordained by Masai and Bobby to tell Darko as far as what they want to do as far as their preference between that right there that I just described. That's right. Yeah. Seymour saying, wait, you finished the book already? Damn. I mean, I read it in like 4 hours on Friday. It's an easy read, Seymour. You should totally get it. It's awesome. Guys, if you can't get in the hard copy, get it on an audiobook and listen to it. But it's totally worth getting. If you're a big Raptors fan like I am, and like most of the people here, you need to get this book, if not just to support DeMar, but also to get the inside scoop on some of this stuff. I mean, once again, this man was a Raptor through and through, and you really do get really cool stories from his days on Raptors, like how he developed his friendship with Kyle Lowry and got it so deep. And like I said yesterday, he really had a very, very strong connection to Sonny Weems. And Sonny Weems was like one of his favorite players that he played with ever in his whole entire career. And so there's a lot of very, very interesting details in there. Of course, we also find out about DeMar DeRozan's very close friendship with Romeo Miller. Are you listening to me, Kareem Thomas? Because, yeah, there's a Percy Miller connection to DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan, growing up around Compton, well, he became very good friends with Romeo, the son of Percy. And he was around Master P a lot when he was young. There were a lot of mentors that were surprising to me that DeMar had very young while he was still in high school before he got into the college even. And in some ways, it's partly because of where he was in LA. There were mentors that he dealt with that you'd be shocked that he talked to and that were helping him already before he even stepped on a court for USC. Kobe Bryant was very much a part of DeMar's life since he was a youth. In fact, as soon as DeMar showed up at one of Kobe's camps when he was young, DeMar was actually caught Kobe's eye, and Kobe kind of seeked DeMar out himself and really took him on as a pupil and in a project. This is special. This isn't like anybody else in the league. The things that Kobe was doing with DeMar were very, very unique. And, other players in the league would have died for getting the instruction and the insight and the inner detail that DeMar got from Kobe Bryant. In some ways, that is part of the reason why DeMar is such an amazing player to this day, is because the mid-range, the footwork, all that was handed down to him from Kobe. And the thing is, DeMar listened to Kobe very seriously, and he really, really, really took it all in. And he really, really used it all. And Kobe probably really respected that DeMar, he wasn't wasting his time trying to train DeMar. And that's tough. We know Kobe Bryant was a taskmaster, that he was not easy on his teammates. And the fact that a young man like DeMar DeRozan, who came up in the LA community, was kind of anointed and chosen by Kobe Bryant to be this guy, yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Of course, he talks about the story where he wears the Air Jordans instead of the Kobe shoes in the game, and Kobe gets pissed at him for wearing Jordan shoes. And he's like, why are you not wearing my shoes? You always wear my shoes. Like, what's going on with this? It's because Vince, this is the story. Vince Carter told DeMar DeRozan, you shouldn't wear Kobe's shoes when you play against him. It's like you're kind of giving an advantage to him mentally, knowing that you're wearing his shoes while you play him. So you shouldn't wear his shoes when you play him. So DeMar, taking Vince's advice, wore Jordans against Kobe once, and he never did that mistake again because Kobe got pissed and went off on him. And he's like, don't ever wear anybody else's shoes but mine. So I think since then, he's never messed around with that. So yeah, let's see. Fiercely saying, good morning, fam, and happy Sunday. Good to see MJ back in the chat regularly again. She was busy last week, and good to see her. Seymour saying, hi, eye candy. Tom saying, good morning. Got my copy in the mail yesterday. I'm going to actually read it. Thanks again, Tom. Thanks again, David. Let's go, Raptors. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. David Saborin, St. David strikes again. And that book has made its way to the West Coast. So now our guy out on the West Coast, Tommy Dookie, can read the book and read all the amazing little antidotes and different things. And there's a lot in there. It's power packed. We find out a lot about his family. We find out a lot about his cousins. We find out about his mother and his father, especially his father. And it's really, really interesting stuff. Like, one of the things I didn't realize is that DeMar's family, his father's side, is from Louisiana. So in some ways, in the summers, DeMar would go to Louisiana to visit his father's family in Louisiana, and kind of country bumpkin Louisiana. Yeah, just like what you think. It's not like highfalutin, affluent Louisiana. He was going to the country home, very, very, like, not having a whole lot. And that really kind of made him have different kind of perspectives on the world. Being in Compton, where he grew up, and then going to see his father's family in Louisiana as a kid in the summers. So there's a lot of really good stuff. And the relationship between DeMar and his father is so special and important. And it's really kind of interesting because in the book, you kind of get the sense of DeMar transforming throughout the whole book to be what his father wanted to be. And then, when his father does pass away, DeMar's ready to take the baton as the man of the family. And that very much is one of the journeys in the story of Above the Noise, which is really, really interesting. Yeah, really, really interesting. Yeah, let's go, David. Good job, David Saborin. What a philanthropist. What a amazing person. Fiercely saying, good for DeMar, #1 book in Canada. Yeah, I'm so proud of this. In some ways, I don't know what other books are out there in competition, but Raptors fans came out in full effect for this man on this book, making it #1 bestseller in Canada right now. That's right. I love it. Tommy's saying he also sent me a clipboard from the coaches event you guys went to. Awesome. So you got one of our dry erase boards from the coaches event. That's fantastic, Tommy. I love that David sent you a care package. Today, I'm supposed to get the trophy for MK in the mail. Trevor sent me a new trophy for our WNBA Fantasy League. And I'm not even going to open it up, Trevor. I'm just going to put a label over it and send it directly to Meredith in Ottawa afterwards. So I'll be sending something tomorrow to Ottawa for MK for his championship, for the WNBA championship for the fantasy. Let's see. Fiercely saying, hi, Seymour. That's nice. Alley oops to you. Finishing the book already, Lex. No, wrap it up in plastic. Wrap it up in plastic. I mean, I do want to keep it in really good shape, and I really do appreciate David babying it like crazy to get it to me. It's a mint condition book, and I don't want to mess it up. I appreciate you, Cowboy. You know what I'm going to do? Instead of giving me a dunk, because I didn't really do anything, I'm going to give you a dunk, Cowboy, 121, and I'm going to give David a dunk too, 230. So, yeah, I don't know why I get a dunk. I was so nice and kind of David to do that for me. In some ways, I just read it. I mean, I guess that's kind of an accomplishment. I don't know. It's such an easy read, especially for a Raptors fan. Fiercely saying the WNBA playoffs start today. Yeah, this is cool. 8 teams will start playing, and Indiana made the playoffs. But it's interesting. In the graphic that they've been putting out to advertise for the playoffs, they left Caitlin Clark's face off of it. I think this is a really big problem. In some ways, it's true what people have been saying, that in some ways the WNBA has been a little bit jealous of Clark and what's going on with her, the infrastructure, the other players. They feel like welcome to the WNBA, but she's tough. She can take all that. But in some ways, y'all are missing out on an opportunity. It's like you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. That you should really be advertising and leaning into the phenomena of what Caitlin Clark is, WNBA. It's kind of like you're dropping the ball, seriously. And in some ways, don't be petty. Don't be kind of spiteful or anything weird like this. Embrace it and go with it. Just trust me on this. If we can understand anything from the NBA's journey in the 1980s with Magic and Larry, you guys can't do this. You really do need to play her up and really, really show, because in some ways, that's where y'all are messing up on how you're handling Caitlin Clark. I get it. There may be other players in the league that have played a long, long time, and they have problem with her getting so much spotlight and bringing it up. Honestly, it's just jealousy. These people were not able to build and elevate the league like she has this year. In some ways, that is part of the problem right here. That is part of the problem right here. So get over yourselves, WNBA, and start marketing yourselves better, because this, you got to do it now. You're getting the attention. And if you fail on this is going to be a big, huge fumble. So don't, just embrace Caitlin Clark phenomena and go towards it, please. Yeah, David said, welcome, enjoy, my brothers. There you go, David. What a guy. David, you got to come out and check out. We got all the trees chopped down that I told you would, and I got a huge pile of chips, and I'm building that birdie's raised bed today too. Yeah, there's a lot going on out here, David. You're going to have to come out here and help me with some stuff. I got to get a cover crop for the winter, and in some ways, I want your expertise. Mike is here. Good to see Logical Raptors fanatic. Trevor J, I saw that Coach Allen video on Jacoby too. It's exciting to see all these pieces really fit Scotty. This is the great thing. I mean, in the new age of the new salary cap and the way that the aprons are, the NBA GMs cannot screw around and have any kind of dead spot on the roster. You can't have pieces of the puzzle that don't fit that puzzle anymore. You really have to maximize your roster spots and your salary to get the right fit. And in some ways, I think that's more important than ever for NBA teams to get the right players that will fit together on there, because you're wasting time if they don't. And if you're paying them all this money, like the Sixers are, and they don't actually gel together and they don't play very well, well, you're just stuck with the tab and a team that is going nowhere. And that's why, if we're going to strike down our team last year and go into a transition in a wedgie year of losing some of our key players to start over, well, we better make sure when we're rebuilding the team that they are the right pieces to be around Scotty Barnes. I really, really do think that that's important. Cowboys saying Sheriff and I can't eat. Tom Duke's in the house. I love it. And Seymour saying, I feel it for Jonas Valanciunas as well. He was traded in our chip run season. That's an underrated story. And I think you're right, Seymour, that in some ways Jonas, who really wasn't even mentioned in DeMar's book hardly at all either, which is weird. We're not mentioning his book, that I was like, why isn't he talking about these guys at all? He didn't talk about Terrence Ross hardly at all. And he didn't talk about Jonas hardly at all, which was interesting to me. But yeah, Jonas is in the same case. I mean, he was traded this season up. He was actually on the Raptors at the beginning of the season for us. And he got traded just a couple months before we got our championship. But, Jonas Valanciunas is such a happy-go-lucky guy. In some ways, he just doesn't have that kind of things like DeMar does, as far as like holding grudges and stuff. I mean, he may be more the kind of guy who's like, I'm happy to be in the NBA, being a billionaire. I have a beautiful wife and a beautiful family, and I can't complain too much. If you want, we'll go ice fishing. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, Seymour, but in some ways, I'd be curious to hear Jonas Valanciunas' journey in 2019 as far as getting traded for Marc Gasol and then seeing Marc Gasol and the Raptors go and get that championship. I don't understand why the Raptors wouldn't give a ring to Jonas. If all these other teams since are like, yeah, we'll give rings to guys who got traded during the season, we have no problem. Why didn't we do that for Valanciunas? Seriously, because in some ways we could have given him a ring because he did do service for that team. He played most of the season for the championship year. And I wonder about that. Why wouldn't we give Jonas, maybe CJ Miles and DeLon Wright rings also? Because they got traded in the middle of the season. David saying, congrats to MK. Well done in fantasy. Crushed me in the finals. I made a few mistakes, but I had no prayer, even if flawless. Yeah, a flawless season from MK. He did not lose a single week in the WNBA season. It's so amazing. Honestly, so amazing. And yeah, we're going to get him that championship trophy sent out this week. And it'll be awesome. I should probably open it up and look at it, but in some ways, I just want to just send it straight there. Fiercely saying, DeMar is so special, a true definition of cornerstone of our organization. That's why this is what I'm saying. In some ways, we can see examples of players and their parts in our history of our franchise in the 30 years. And I'm telling you, his resume and his things that he said and he done and he stand for Toronto Raptors and through every single thing that happened to him has unwavered. And some of these other guys had no loyalty whatsoever and were absolutely crapping on our team for years afterwards. Vince Carter. So there's differences here. There's different, there's apples to oranges in some ways. Some people say, yeah, and very much. DeMar's a real one, and Vince is not. Is not. Is not. They're like the opposite ends of the spectrum, honestly. G saying, thanks for Cole's notes on DeMar's book. Man, I didn't even really tell you hardly anything about it. Seriously. So don't act like you read it already, G. There's so much in there. I promised Monique I wouldn't spill all the tea, but there's so much in there. I mean, there's a lot about his family. There's a lot about his daughters. There's a lot about that. He says in the book that he didn't realize DR did that during that game until after the game. But that doesn't totally line up with what he said afterwards. He said, "Oh, I heard something in the middle of the game, and then I realized it was her." No, he said that he didn't realize she was doing that until after the game in the book. And once again, he doesn't get mad at her or anything. He says he's proud of her. I always stand on this as far as DeR DeRozan in that play-in game. They got even with us. The DeRozan family had a gripe and a problem with some of the things that happened with his trade to San Antonio. And like I said, in some ways, we're even now. Y'all ruined the last game of Nick Nurse's career as a Raptor. And also you ruined our playoff chances that year. So in some ways, we're even now, right? Also in the book, I forgot about this. The last game that DeMar ever played for the Raptors, he got ejected from the game. It was in the playoffs. It was against the Cavs. He hit a hard foul on a breakaway, and they threw him out. And there was still 5 minutes to go in the game. And that's a tough way for him to end his Raptors career at that time, getting ejected in a very high-level playoff game against the Cleveland Cavaliers and sitting helplessly in the back in the locker room, having to watch the Raptors try and win without him. And of course, we lost. Now, that would be why, in some ways, it'd be really cool if DeMar did come back and play for the Raptors again at the end of his career, because then he could have a better ending than getting ejected in a Cleveland Cavaliers playoff game like he did in 2018. So it's very interesting. DeMar in recent interviews has been saying things like, I will play like 3 more years. So I think he already kind of has a timeline for how much longer he wants to play this year, next year, and the year after that. And then he may be done, guys. He may be done. He kind of gave some hints on that. That's right. Cowboys saying, who's in the playoffs? Who's in the playoffs? Oh, for the NBA? Mainly the most of the main teams, the Los Angeles Aces, New York Liberty, Indiana Fever, Phoenix Mercury. Who else is in there? There's quite a there's 8 of them. Connecticut Sun, I believe, is in there also. Yeah. Andrew saying, do you think this season will be Kyle's last season? I don't know. That's an interesting question. That's funny because Lou Williams and DeMar are talking about on his podcast that they're proud that there's a couple guys still playing. Like Lou Williams is really proud of DeMar and Kyle for still being in the league and still playing. Like I still have some guys that are in there still fighting, and they're really proud of that. I don't know. Kyle's probably closer than DeMar. It could very well be that Kyle Lowry does retire before DeMar DeRozan, and that may actually change who gets retired first. I don't know. I still think that if we can, Raptors, we should wait for both of them to leave and retire them together. Seriously, that would be amazing. If we could do, instead of just one Raptor being the first ever jersey retired, let's retire those guys at the same time and we can say that Kyle and DeMar both got retired together. But the timing of when Kyle retires and DeMar retires may not be the same year. That may be the one problem right there. Yeah, let's see. Mike saying DeMar being traded was part of on him. He said around that time he didn't think he really needed to change his game. Being traded and having Pop as a coach changed his mindset and he grew his skills. I don't know if that's totally accurate, Mike, because that's not the way DeMar thinks. He very much is never resting on his laurels. And in fact, it's a big part of the theme in the book that he doesn't respect people that don't continue to try and get better. So I don't think this is true. I think that you may be remembering something wrong. I think that in some ways you got to remember that Casey kind of had problems around him at that time with him not being able to coach the playoffs and be very changing and stuff. In some ways, the criticism of DeMar was about defense and about certain things. And in some ways, he was desperately trying to get better at those things. So I don't think that that's exactly right, Mike, because to this day, his mindset has not changed since he was a child. And it's the voice of Frank DeRozan echoing throughout his head that will not let him stop and rest and be okay with where he's at. So I don't think your statement's accurate, because it just doesn't go with his DNA and the way he looks at things. It may have seemed like that because honestly, the years of LeBronto, it looked like the Raptors were spinning their wheels as a franchise and just couldn't get over that hump. And he talks about how it was really deflating and difficult. And but he was trying desperately, even if he was not getting total success, on building his game up and fixing the deficiencies. It's just tough. I mean, learning how to play defense in a certain way is really hard in a certain way in the NBA. He also very clearly illuminates that his relationship with LeBron is very good, and he's never had hate towards LeBron because of LeBronto. In some ways, he's just in awe of him like everybody else, and he understands his place in the game, and that's just part of it, that he just happened to have to be an opponent against him for a few years in the playoffs there. So, and LeBron did this to all the Eastern Conference teams. Let's not get it twisted. When he was on the Heat and the Cavs during that period of time, he was beating everybody out of the playoffs and going to the finals. So it wasn't like the Raptors were any special team in the whole LeBronto phenomena over the whole entire Eastern Conference during the 2010s. So yeah. Trevor's saying, look out for that package today. I will. Yeah. Trevor's on a tear. Yeah. He's sending the trophy for MK is what he's sending today. Cowboys saying, who can stop Papa Scotty Barnes this season? Nobody. Okay. Russell Oliver. No, but wait, no, that's Lastman's. Never mind. Oh yeah. All right, that's the right one. Yeah. Tom foot massager. Trevor J. What? No, there's no foot massager. He's sending the trophy for MK. That's right. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Demar saying Andrew saying DeMar deserves his jersey retired when he retires. Yeah. No delay, and not even second guessing. If there's been like a mulling over about whether we should retire Vince Carter's jersey, which I say no, we can definitely say yes. We need to retire DeMar's jersey immediately, like immediately. I don't think we mess around with it. Yeah, and Cowboys saying, yep. And David's saying it's already done. Nobody's worn his jersey since. Yeah, nobody's worn number 10 on this team. You know, he talks about why he wore number 10. In some ways, he wanted to wear a different number, but he couldn't. But he picked 10 because Kobe wore 10 in the Olympics. That's why he wanted to honor Kobe, but he didn't want to straight up be 24 or anything like that. So he honored Kobe by wearing his Olympic number 10. And then it just happened to be a happy coincidence that it's comp 10 with where he comes from. So that actually worked out really well and started with his branding for his apparel company, Comp 10, and stuff like that. So yeah, the 10 is because of Kobe playing in the Olympics wearing number 10. And it was really important and special that DeMar went to the Rio Olympics and played in those Olympics and got a gold medal. That was a really special time. But he said it wasn't the best time for what he thought it was going to be. He thought he'd be able to interact with the Olympics place, but there was all kinds of weird stuff going on with Zika virus. So they had to stay on a boat. They were staying on a yacht out in the water, and they were really separated from the rest of the Olympians. And DeMar is sad about that because he really wanted a full Olympic experience around everybody and be in the middle of it all. So yeah, there's a lot of different interesting stuff in this book that you'll find out when you get it. Yeah, Click saying I have his book. Awesome. I'm glad you got it. Andrew's saying it would be cool to see Kyle and DeMar have their jerseys retired together. I think it would be very special and sweet. In some ways, it wouldn't be like most jersey retirements because in some ways this kind of stuff doesn't really happen that often where two guys will want to share the spotlight together. But these two guys would. These two guys would. Like DeMar says in his book that, you know, Kyle's mom calls DeMar his other son, and vice versa. DeMar's mother very much treats Kyle Lowry like her own son too. It's true. It's very much like that. Let's see. Click saying been dealing with some anxiety was definitely a good read. There you go. I mean, there you go. Maybe Click having some issues himself found some good stuff from the way DeMar seeks his peace himself. You know, a lot of where DeMar gets his okayness is from playing basketball, is from getting on the court and being out there. I mean, him talking about how Kyle helped him focus, like when he was really struggling and in weird places, Kyle would say, look, it's fine. You can be back on your happy place and it's out on the court. When DeMar would be playing, it's like he forgets everything and he goes away from it. In fact, it's a really easy way for him to cope with things that happen, like tragedies in his life, is to just go straight out and on the basketball court and just keep working. In some ways, he laments in the book that maybe he didn't take enough time to mourn his father's death because he rushed back into playing immediately almost after his dad died. So it's an interesting story. It's a very interesting story, and I'm glad Click is finding something from it. And good to see Rapid Free Click back in the chat again, original from the beginning. And we see Jill's here also. Awesome. Jill saying, "Good morning, freaks. Happy Sunday. How are you?" Yeah, things are a little tumultuous in my life personally, but otherwise, things are pretty good. I'm excited about the Raptors season coming up and just all the other stuff. Jill, it's so good to see you in the chat. And I know that you're around in our Facebook chat from time to time. And I'm just happy to see you in the chat this morning with us, Ms. Moody. Ms. Moody, Ms. Moody. Yeah, getting the high from Jill. Tom saying, Matty Ice, Matt Idol GW. Love that dude. He is a wee bit short for the big show, but has a lot of game and the best mindset. Matty Ice, Matt Idealegio. Is this somebody who was on the 905 tryouts yesterday? Or who are you talking about, Tom? I'm not totally sure who you're talking about. Matt Idealegio. Love that dude. He's a wee bit short for the big show, but has a lot of game and his best mindset. Okay, I'm gonna have to find out who that is. You don't mean Matt Thomas, because when I hear Matty Ice, I think Matt Thomas. Andrew's saying, I hope Jacoby comes out with a flamethrower. I feel like his hands might struggle against NBA defenders, though. Well, we'll just have to see. In some ways, there's a couple of different flaws in his game that he's going to have to shore up to be better in the NBA. And who knows? I mean, in some ways, he's an enigma. In some ways, he's very weird and a mystery. Some of the other rookies for the Raptors are pretty straight up, and we kind of understand what might be happening with them. But with him, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I hope he's not a bust. That's what I would say. That's the most important thing here. Be a serviceable NBA player. And Jacoby, be serious about this shit. Seriously, be serious. Cool Cat's here. Good morning, Rapid Free Crew. Good morning to you, Cool Cat. Always good to see the coach. David saying, luckily for Jacoby, 90% of NBA players can't be bothered with defense anyway. No biggie. Well, that may not totally be true. In some ways, I would say this. If you come in the league, you need to be a good citizen and kind of be a good person that gets along with people and kind of does good things with the people. And then second, you probably do need to play defense to hang around. So many players are having to leave the league right now and go overseas. Javon Freeman Liberty, the latest one, who didn't play that very good defense, well, he's in Turkey now. So that's how it goes, David. In some ways, you got to play defense or you may be playing in Turkey very soon. And we might be able to say that about Raptors from last year, namely Javon Freeman Liberty and Jordan Nwora. So let's see. Mike's saying Jacoby is a mobile shooter with some play IQ. Things like that will show at least a glimmer at times. Even if he busts, people are so focused on Flag and Wemby type of picks that it's a dumb way to be. I mean, I think that he's going to surprise people. I think that in some ways, I think that the hype about Jacoby Walter was true, that he could have been a top 10 pick, and that we are just opportunists. We're getting him at 19. That's a value pick. And this is the thing. Once again, I will go and point a finger at OG Anunoby and say, that where did he get picked? Where did Siakam get picked? And Jacoby is a similar kind of late first round pick that maybe could have been picked higher if people had been more astute or on it more. Some ways people say his draft stock dropped, and that's why he fell to 19. So there's questions about him. I don't know. He's an enigma. We'll have to see. Flamethrower is a great word to be around him. I hope that's true. I hope that is true. I hope that is true. Yeah. Let's see. Jillian saying, hi, Lex, Seymour, David, Trevor, Tom, Logical. All right. So I'm not going to read everybody's name. Let's see. Cowboys got the people on blast. I love that. And G saying hi. All right. Let's see. Seymour saying lemon pepper Lou. Yeah. Lou was Lou Williams. Sorry. Lou Williams was a storied 1 year Raptor, just like Bismack and Kawhi. That's right. Andrew saying, why I got a question mark next to my name. I don't know. You don't on mine. I don't know. Jill saying, okay, yeah. All right, let's see. Cowboys saying, oh, that's just Jill being like too much roll call, Jill. Once again, I always say you don't have to say hi to everybody. Just say hi, everybody. Cowboys saying, I grow those lemon peppers. Okay, cool. Seymour saying, pickleball champ is the house. Okay. All right, we're getting off topic just because Jill's here, guys. David saying, Cowboys, save me some of that other pepper, please, bro. That looked crazy. Okay, that's even more off topic, you guys. Seymour saying, I'm a start a garden for next spring. There you go, Seymour. I like that. And Tom saying, send me some, David. Okay. Cowboys saying 1,000%, David. They're called Sugar Rush Strippy. All right. I don't even know where you guys are going on this. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and skip all the growing stuff, guys, in some ways. Let's see. Cool Cat saying, Lex, that's why I can't wait to hear locker room stories during Scotty, Fred, Siakam, OG. I want the tea because I sensed a lot of drama for sure. Some of the drama, some people have indicted Siakam for being part of the reason why the drama was happening. So I don't know what's going to be true. In some ways, we may never find this stuff out. DeMar's open and honest and vulnerable and putting his stuff out there. But some of this stuff will never, ever come out. And in some ways, don't hold your breath on this, Cool Cat. In some ways, there's a sanctity in an unspoken code that locker room stuff stays locker room stuff. And it's still like that to this day, even after they retire. In some ways, they know that there's kind of a sanctity that they don't want to break. In fact, it was interesting during the Lou Williams, DeMar DeRozan interview. Lou Williams could talk about certain things in an open way, but DeMar can't because he's still an active player. And they make light of this in that interview, saying, I'll talk about it, DeMar. So you can't because you're still in the league. I'll talk about it. So there's a lot of unspoken stuff, and them talking about this fight is just hilarious. The Reggie Evans, James Johnson stuff, but it's not common to hear this kind of stuff. Trust me. In some ways, these guys are trying to keep this stuff on the down low. Maybe over time we'll hear more about this and little details, but don't hold your breath, Cool Cat. There's no promises you'll hear any of that tea at some point. There you go. All right, let's see. Cowboys saying, does DeMar say anything about Masai in the book? Yeah, this is what I was getting to. In some ways, DeMar says that when he first met Masai, he was very shy and quiet and very much just kind of there as one of the scouts. And it was more Brian Colangelo that was recruiting him at that time because he was GM. But Masai was a scout at that time, and he was there when the Raptors worked out DeMar DeRozan before we drafted him. So he was there the whole time. And then he went to Denver for a little while, and then he came back, and he became the GM. Now, he said when he came back from Denver, he was a different person. That Masai Ujiri had transformed as a GM, getting the GM position in the Nuggets for that little bit of time between his two Raptor stints. He came back very more confident and very more charismatic. And that's the main thing that he says about Masai, is that this very shy, quiet person had transformed into a very charismatic energy and very confident. And that was the big difference. He does kind of say some things about Masai for good or for bad. And totally, he doesn't really talk about healing things with Masai, but we know he has because we've seen him hug Masai at the Raptors arena. And we know that he's okay with him. And the other thing that DeMar really delineates in the book and in interviews he's done recently is that he understands the NBA is a business, and that a lot of decisions that are made in the NBA are made for business decisions as far as franchise players and also as far as playing time and also as far as trades. And he understands that aspect of it. In some ways, he hates it. In some ways, it's something that goes against his natural loyal kind of sensibility. But in some ways also, he can look at the whole perspective of it and understand why Masai traded him at that point. But he still thinks to this day, as long as LeBron is in the West, that he could have taken the Raptors to the championship instead of Kawhi Leonard the next year if he had not been traded. In some ways, he really does feel like he'll never know, and he wants to. In some ways, he really does want to. Yeah, it's crazy. Mike saying Lou Will was a DeRozan light, basically, with threes, but we needed more defenders and got better with Cujo. Not really. Come on, Mike. That's a silly take. They're very different players. Very, very, very different players as far as I'm concerned. They're very different. It's very interesting. Lou Williams talks about on the recent podcast about how Oscar Robertson came up to him and said, Lou Williams, you could play in any era of the NBA and you would be successful. And he took that as a huge compliment. And I can kind of see what Oscar Robertson's saying about Lou Williams and his pure scoring ability and how he was as an NBA player. That's a huge compliment to have one of the greatest players ever in the history of the game, Oscar Robertson, come up to you and say, you know what, you're the kind of player that would transcend and translate to every single era of the NBA. You could play in any of them. And that's also saying that, Lou, we recognize that you're a tough guy and that you can be out there taking the hard hits of the 80s and 90s and still be successful. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing. Andrew's saying, I have to admit, I'm a purple fever fiend. Okay, Andrew's saying he's got purple fever. So let's put the purple fever up real quick. Yeah, Andrew's got that purple fever, y'all. Look out, man. In some ways, you might want to get tested, but in some ways, you're probably fine. But yeah, purple fever is afflicting Raptors Nation because of this in-season tournament court and the throwback jerseys coming at us this season. That's right. Purple fever is on point right now. That's right. Look at that purple fever. Jill saying, wish I could have been at DeMar's signing. Fierty, you want to drive to Montreal for the October 6th game? There you go. All right. Raptor Freaks setting up, possibly going to the game together. I like that. Andrew saying, I hope Bruce's thought process isn't, I was injured on company time, so I'll recover on company time. I don't know. I don't think that's what this is. That's unprofessional. And in some ways, that's not his best interest, in some ways. That's what I would say to that. And so it's not really a good look that he's going to be hurt at the beginning of the year. But also, you know what? It could be Bruce saw the beginning of the schedule and he's like, you know what? I think I want to skip the first month of the season because this looks crazy, the schedule we're doing. That may be likely. That may be likely right there. He's like, oh my gosh, the Raptors are going to have a really hard time in the first month of the season. Maybe I'm not available. I mean, that may be more plausible than anything right there. Smooth saying Scotty Barnes' ex was on Insta talking about breakup and the pregnancy with the white girl. She talked about moving to Toronto and being his support. Man, she's pissed. That's interesting. I mean, I have not seen any of this stuff, Smooth. And once again, Raptor Freaks are going to find out stuff in the Raptors world. I had heard that Scotty had a girlfriend from back in Florida that kind of on the down low, a woman that he had been seeing from time to time. But he's always said that he's single. He didn't really have anybody. In some ways, they asked him on Twitch over the last couple of years, you have a girlfriend? You have anybody special? He said, no, I don't have anybody special or important in my life. So this is interesting. And I don't know. Without seeing everything and what you're talking about, I would have to go look at it and suss it out afterwards. But that's interesting intel, Smooth. I had heard a little bit of a rumor that he had an ex that isn't too happy about this. And well, you're kind of confirming this if this lady's on Instagram talking about their breakup and the pregnancy with the white girl. Yeah, interesting. Scotty didn't want anybody from down south to come up with him. In some ways, he really did revel on being his own man and being by himself up here. His mom wasn't coming up here with him. None of his family really was coming up here. Nick's here. Nick's with him, his manager. But otherwise, Scotty didn't want to bring a whole lot of Palm Beach up to Toronto because in some ways, that was him separating himself from his past and going into his future as a Toronto Raptor and being up here in Canada. So I don't know if this lady, like his ex, actually really was ever realistically in the cards to come up here because he really did separate Florida from Canada. And in coming to Canada, he found that inner independence that he's never had before and that freedom he's never had before. And he relishes it. Trust me. He relishes that freedom and independence of being his own man here in this country. That's right. Yeah, David said, what a loon, cray. Well, I don't know. I have to look at this and we'll have to see the two sides of it. Obviously, somebody's hurt by what's happened. That is something. DeMar talks a bit about his relationship, Kiara, and the ups and downs. That's a part of this book. And he's very explicit about personal things that he didn't have to talk about in his book, but he did. He went there and he talked about the ups and downs of his personal relationship with the mother of his 4 daughters, Kiara. So, and then the whole birth of his son by another woman. He actually goes into the details a little bit about all this and how this all went down. So in some ways, that's his business. And he didn't need to put it in this book, but he did. He did. And if you want to know what it is, you need to buy the book. You need to buy the book. That's what I'm going to say right there. Yeah, Tommy's crying. Smooth saying Scotty has an enemy, man. He has many supporters too. Well, Scotty's a great, and he's going to have haters. Just like I hate LeBron. It's like I was not a fan of Kobe or Michael when they were playing. Well, the greats get haters because they're good. And in some ways, Scotty Barnes is collecting haters around the league in different ways because they see the truth. They understand how good he is, and they want to be haters. And he's not on their team. Well, they're going to hate on him. And that's what's happening with Scotty. In some ways, the great ones always have haters. And that's just natural. That is just natural. Jillian saying Scotty's going to be a dad. Yeah, Jill, where you been? This was the Wow Wednesday this past week that it was leaked on Instagram that Scotty has gotten a girl from Guelph pregnant. and that he is maybe further along than we think. This baby may be coming around Christmas or early spring. So just so you know, Jillian, yeah, and we're gonna have to see how this affects his game, being a dad all of a sudden. Tom's saying, Papa Scotty. That's right. Papa Scotty, daddy, goat daddy. That's right. Cowboy's saying Papa Scott is going to run through everyone this year. There you go. David's saying, well, hey, seems like the kid will be more in mid-season. Maybe we will make the playoffs, Fred Van Vliet style. I mean, once again, I was talking about this with my cousin yesterday. The Raptors could make the playoffs this year because the Eastern Conference has some teams at the bottom, like Milbester said and Mike has said, that we can be better than. I mean, seriously, there's at least 5 teams in the East, if not 6, maybe even 7, that the Raptors can have a better record than by the end of the season. Trust me. And you do the math. 5 teams will be out of the play-in altogether. And, well, we could be one of the teams that are above those 5 teams in the play-in at least, if not possibly in the very bad last playoff spot. That's not likely. It's more likely we're going to be one of the 4 play-in teams no matter what. That's really where I think we're going to end up. But hopefully we'll have success and we'll actually get a first-round playoff by getting through the play-in. That's what I want to see right there. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Jill's saying billionaire baby. Scotty doesn't have that kind of money. Billionaire. He's a millionaire. But billion's a lot of money, Jill. Smooth saying his ex is pretty put together for sure. Pretty? His ex is pretty put together for sure. I'm not sure you meant petty or pretty. I'm guessing you meant pretty because that's what you wrote. Mike's saying Fred Jr. is still a Raps fan. Laugh out loud. Yeah, it's pretty cool. DeMar said in his interview with Lou Williams that his son, his young son Zeno, is very much a huge basketball fan, and that Zeno wants to watch basketball all the time. And this kid's only like 3 years old. So his son is very, very into the basketball. And this is one of the things that DeMar is grappling with, being a father of a son. In some ways, it's easy for him to be a daughter dad because it really is like a nurturing, loving kind of like relationship that's very like he brings out so much love. He's very much a daughter dad, like a girl dad. And his connection to DeMar DeRozan is so strong, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now. The book really illustrates just how much his daughters mean to him. And he wondered about having a son and how that would be different because of his relationship with his father, Frank. And in some ways, the way that Frank brought up DeMar is not going to be anything like how DeMar brings up Zeno. Because in some ways, the things that Frank did to DeMar kind of be not totally okay in today's society. Let's just put it that way. So in some ways, he's balancing not being like his dad towards him and with his son coming up. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There may be things about DeMar DeRozan that come out that are like his father, Frank, with how he wants to treat his son coming up if he wants to play basketball. But I don't know. DeMar's very cognizant and aware of this. And in some ways, he's promised himself already he would not do things like Frank DeRozan did. He would not do things like him. Yeah. Seymour saying Scotty planted a northern seed. Okay. Andrew saying Scotty's child is Canadian. Beaver Barnes Jr. will lead Canada to the 2046 Olympic gold. You know what? I'd love for a Raptor child to grow up and be on the Canadian Olympic team. I don't know if it'll happen, but when the day comes, if it does happen, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be a lot of awesome. David's marking the date. Guy was saying, all my exes live in Texas. That's a good old song right there. That's right. You guys are laughing. You guys are funny. David's saying, smart man. And Jillian's saying, baby billionaire, the Canadian Canuck. Yeah, I hate the term billionaire. We got to get it straight. There shouldn't be billionaires. They shouldn't exist. Trust me. And if Elon's about to become a trillionaire, that's just disgusting. The fact that 801 people in the United States have more wealth than the whole entire 50% below is disgusting. It's very, very disgusting. So I don't celebrate billionaires and stuff like that, Jill. I say that they're gross and that they should be rejected and kind of like said, yeah, you should be disgusted with yourself that you're a billionaire, honestly. Because you know what? You could turn around and probably end homelessness if you just like get rid of maybe 2 or 3 of your houses. Seriously, these motherfuckers, greedy ass fucking pieces of shit, Jill. Is why you keep bringing that word in here. I'm gonna get mad. Let's see. Hi, Jill. Okay, you guys keep saying hi. Smooth saying celebrities been deleting their Twitter posts. This one link, the one link to Diddy. Okay, I don't even want to talk about Diddy. I have not looked at any of the Diddy stuff. I hear it's really, really bad. And in some ways, well, he lived a certain lifestyle that was really gross and awful, and it caught up with him. And that, you know what, at a certain point, fame and money and everything will not protect you if you're absolutely gross in what you're doing. Sex trafficking. And that is really, 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 really bad. Jill saying would like to watch Raptors beat the Wizards for sure. Yeah, you should go. You should go. If you can go to that game on October the 6th, you should, because the record is the Raptors are undefeated in Montreal. And well, playing the Wizards on the 6th, they probably will continue to be undefeated. Probably will. Isaac saying, dunk to Andrew. Scotty's kid is Team Canada's next best center. Man, y'all are presupposing a lot already, man. Smooth saying, honestly, I know that you don't want to speak about him, but I will say this. Him and LeBron were very close. I pray that LeBron did not know about these freak offs. Freak offs. What are you talking about? Who are you talking about who's close with LeBron? You mean DeMar? Honestly, I know that you don't want to speak about him, but I will say this. Him and LeBron were very close. I pray that LeBron did not know about these freak offs. What do you mean? You're talking about DeMar and his depression? Listen, LeBron promised DeMar to be a Laker, and then they took it away from him. He straight up promised him. DeMar talks about going to LeBron's house that summer and them sitting down, and LeBron's like, I want you to play for the Lakers. I want you to be on this team. It's all a done deal. We'll get it done. And DeMar left there thinking, all right, I'm going to the Lakers. This is going to be a childhood dream. I'm really happy. And then he went to Mexico. And then he saw, like on vacation, a news tweet that Russell Westbrook had been added to the Lakers. And he knew by the math that what happened with his part in the equation was gone. And so he had been told straight up by LeBron himself at LeBron's house that he was going to be a Laker. And yeah, in some ways, that's something that was really disappointing. And you get it from the book that DeMar's disappointed by that. So in some ways, it's kind of screwed up because there really is a very strong connection DeMar has with the Lakers franchise. He loves the Raptors, and he would have been a Raptor his whole entire career if we hadn't traded him. But in some ways, the love and passion as a child was for the Lakers. It was the team that him and his dad watched on the tapes way long time ago when he was a little kid. And that he really is a really diehard Lakers fan historically from when he was a child. And the fact that LeBron sold him the goods on you're going to be a Laker, and then they pulled the rug out from underneath him. Well, that's dirty stuff in some ways. That's dirty stuff because they told him one thing and then it didn't happen. That kind of is representative of how the Lakers conduct business. Let's just put it that way. It's kind of representative of that. G saying in the WNBA, the rookie ladies go from NCAA tournament to draft to playing in the WNBA within 2 weeks. Yeah, that's true. The timing's right because the NCAA season is around the NBA season, but the WNBA is in the summer. So Caitlin Clark got thrown in the fire right away and coming into the WNBA. That's a good point, G. That's a good point. All right, let's keep going. Cowboys saying Diddy is going to snitch. He's not going down alone. Well, I'd say this. If there's people around him that are just as incriminated and bad as him, they all deserve to go down. But let's not make sure that there's just one pigment of skin that's going down in this whole thing, because there's probably different people that are involved in this that need to be touched also, and they shouldn't be protected. Yeah. I'm saying I'm just glad Fridays are freakouts, not freak offs. Freak offs. I don't even know what y'all are talking about exactly with the freak off thing. Cowboy wants that alley-oop for Tom. We'll do that. We'll give old Tommy Dookie an alley-oop out on Victoria, British Columbia. My guy Tom is out there holding it down this Sunday morning for us on the West Coast time. 188, Tommy. That's where you're at now. Wayne saying, oh, my God, big up Tommy. That's a 4-pointer, Tommy. You like that? All right. You want a 4-pointer for him? I'll give him one more. Just because Sargent said that. Let's go. 189. 189 for Tom. All right, let's keep going. There's the classic card answers. Tim Hardaway Sr. That actually isn't a bad guess, although he never played for the Suns. I don't think he actually did. Let's see. Where else am I? All right, I lost my place in the chat. So I'm going to come back up. I'm at the classic card. Okay, there we go. Jill saying, hearing more and more about Caitlin Clark being the whole team. Okay, Jill, you're doing this @ thing again. You just came back for the first time, and you're already doing all the things that you're not supposed to do when you come here. David's saying, I'm back. If you need me, let me know. Yeah, I'm gonna be good on this one. In some ways, there's a reason for that, and I don't know how much you can help me with with it. So we'll talk after the stream. I'll call you, and I'll talk to you a little bit after this. Mike saying Kelly will lead the bench well, in my opinion. I agree with that. Kelly's a good leader and somebody that I like being on the Raptors. Kelly can get guys into their spots and help get players keep the guys focused on the court. Kelly is a really good communicator. Yeah, I like that about him a lot. Cowboy saying Chef Red Eye Darko will figure out our bench. I ain't worried. I like that too. Mike saying Jillian, not gonna lie, Boston and Mitchell have been getting a lot of love too. Why are y'all talking about Boston and Mitchell? Mitchell, which Mitchell? You guys got to baby me. That's the problem. There's too much confusion sometimes in here. Jill saying thanks, logical. Found some stuff other than angry hoops. All right, I have no idea what y'all are talking about. Once again, Jill is taking the spotlight and running all over the places into places that we're not staying on point. Seriously. All right, let's see. Wayne saying DeMar's interview on CBC was instructive. The relationship with Lamar is deep as two kids who got out of Compton against the odds. The lyrics had no impact on his involvement in the video. Yeah, in some ways, once again, Kendrick Lamar's words are his own. DeMar can be in the video, but he's standing for Compton. And in some ways, he's not saying we're not like him because we are like him. His overall reaching message is we all have mental health struggles and we are like DeMar. So it's a complicated thing. One of the really cool, interesting things I found out in the book was that the reason why he's called Debo is not why y'all think. So you think he's called named after the guy from Friday, Tiny Lister played, right? Debo. Well, he's not actually named after Debo for that. What happened was DeMar was a kid and he beat up a bigger kid and they called him Craig. They said, you're like Craig when he beat up Debo. And for some reason, the Debo part stuck. So it's actually in the fight, he was like Craig in Friday and he beat up a bigger guy. And they said, oh, you did it like Debo. And then all of a sudden, he just became like the name Debo. So that's how he got the nickname. And he said he was really shocked when he showed up in the NBA and people were actually calling him Debo already because that was actually a nickname from his hood. And it was very much based on the Tiny Lister character from Friday, but it was more that he was the role of Craig in that whole fight from the movie. It's an interesting thing that he clears up in the book about Debo. And saying Angry Hoops is a very one aspect it focused. He tends to blame one person for mistakes made by a bunch of people. It's more common than facts. Yeah, he's fun. I like watching him because he's a LeBron hater. And it's usually he's talking about LeBron. That's usually the one person he's coming after, Mike. And that's what's fun. That's what's fun about it, is that he's usually doing that. All right, let's see. Fiercely saying, congratulations to MK for winning the fantasy. Yes. Very, very proud of Meredith for a dream season. Very, very crazy good. Most saying the DeMar and Jim Carrey story always hits me. Well, that's such a weird story to me because it's like, it's the timing of it. It's literally that he, you know what Jim Carrey did for DeMar is he allowed him to understand the concept of depression. That Jim Carrey on the Tonight Show, when he was on that appearance that DeMar watched, when he was at his lowest, he really was able to express the feeling of depression in a way that got through to DeMar and where he recognized it in himself. And in some ways, that's what opened the door for DeMar to get therapy and start working on getting better and happier and finding that calm that he's been searching for. That Jim Carrey relating his story in very much expressing what depression felt like to him. DeMar heard it and he's like, that's what I'm going through. I'm depressed. Jim Carrey just taught me that I'm depressed. And that's pretty cool. That's a very cool, interesting story there about Jim Carrey's place in DeMar's depression journey. You know, Jim Carrey's an interesting guy. DeMar's a huge movie buff. He loves the movies. And part of it's because him and his dad, when he was a kid, used to rent movies out from the movie place and they would like copy them on other tapes. And he had a huge amount of VHS tapes of all kinds of movies from back then. And he loved watching them over and over again. And Jim Carrey is one of his favorite actors. So not only was Jim Carrey somebody that he found direction on depression from, it's also, he's a huge fan of his from his movies. And DeMar really does love movies. He's like a very big movie head. I did not know this about him until I read the book, just how much he's very into cinema and watching a lot of movies and really, really being into them. So Yeah, let's see what else. Mike's saying CC really gets the whole time involved. She plays decoy and always makes the right passes. She's making her teammates look really good. I know you're mean Clark, but in some ways, don't do this initial stuff, Mike. Seriously. I know you mean Clark, though. Yeah, I mean, she's making the whole league better. She's making the ratings go up. She's making the interest go up. She's making a lot of young girls interested in playing basketball. There's a real Caitlin Clark effect. And if the WNBA continues to ignore it or suppress it, that's their own idiotic mistake, honestly. Honestly. And I'm not the only one saying this. There's a lot of people saying this right now. Like, Lou Williams talked about it on his podcast that they need to watch out and really embrace Caitlin Clark and stop dissing her like this. And that he even sees it, that it's just jealousy from some of the old established WNBA people that don't like how much she's coming in like a ball of lightning and just changing the league. So it's stuff like that. All right, Jill's saying, okay, this may be all right. She's talking to Wayne once again. She's adding people and having her own little discussions in here. Jill, this is why I don't like you being in my chat live. Okay, Wayne, we'll look for that DeMar Lamar interview then. Can't wait to get the book. Glad to hear Lex said that Drake is not in a fight with Lamar. No, he is in a fight with Lamar. He's not. Anyway, Jill, I might skip you for the rest of the day if you're going to do this over and over again. Seriously, I love having you in the chat, but you need to play by my rules. Seriously, you're not doing that. You're not doing that. Trevor's saying you show everyone. I should show what the trophy looks like before you ship it out. I'm not even going to open the box. I'm just going to throw a new label on it. Trevor, I can't do this. In some ways, I don't want to take it out or do anything with it. If we get the picture, I'll show it on Facebook. But yeah, I can't do it this way, Trevor. I'm sorry. Mike saying, Jillian, check. Okay. See, you got Mike talking directly to you now. See, I can throw half these comments out because of this. Seriously. All right. I'm going to skip Jill from now on. Kareem saying, DeMar really pissed me the F off, but I love the dude. Despite all the shit that's happened over the past few years, if you cut DeMar, I'm pretty sure he bleeds red and purple. He does. And that's the crazy thing. And even now, I think he's healed up to the point where he is ready to embrace completely the fan love that he has here in this country, because it's undeniable. People here understand what happened with him, and they really do love him even more because of it. In some ways, we understand he got done dirty. And in some ways, we know about getting done dirty in our own lives, and we can empathize with him. So that is very common among Canadian Raptors fans that we love DeMar DeRozan, undoubtedly. It's only young idiots that are thinking, oh, DeMar's washed, he sucks, and all this kind of stuff, that don't have respect for him. And that really talked a lot of dumb stuff about him when we did trade him. That, yeah, those Raptors fans, they're not real fans because they're missing the point. They're missing the point right there, is what I'm saying right there. Yeah. Blackhawks saying this is Kyle's last season. He advised the Sixers that he is retiring. Boom. All right, Neil. That's good information right there. I could see this being very true. The Lynx are calling. He's got to get out there and do more golfing. He's got to make more golf bags. He's got to have more time for his kids. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to bet this right now. How much money you want to put on that Carter Lowry is going to marry DeMar DeRozan? Seriously. You guys think I'm crazy, but no, you don't understand. They're best friends. DR is best friends with Kyle's oldest son. And in some ways, they're around the same age. And their fathers probably wouldn't be that upset if these two end up together at some point. Who knows? Who knows that that's in the stars? But I wouldn't be surprised if y'all are taking bets on whether Scotty Barnes' son's going to be on the Canadian Olympic team. We'll take a bet on whether DeMar DeRozan is going to marry Carter Lowry. Seriously. This stuff is they're really close. DeMar DeRozan's very, very good friends with Kyle Lowry's son. Mike's saying it was a training coach that told him he was right about shooting two, playing his style. The Raptors were pushing him to improve the three ball, but he didn't think he needed to. You're talking about DeMar. Once again, Mike, proper nouns. Don't just give me he. Tell me who you're talking about. You're talking about DeMar, right? Right? Okay, because we're jumping from Caitlin Clark to this, to that, to this. And in some ways, I need that. Wayne's saying, Lex, DeMar will never play for the Raptors again. And that game with his daughter screaming with us, it was not her, was on us, not her. Superfan, Nick Nurse, and the other over niceness of the Raptors overall were the culprits over it. I mean, we can look at it different ways. When this happened, Wayne, we talked about this very extensively because you were a part of the channel at the time and we were doing reactions.
And I know your stance on this, that you're very hard line. You're like, we were too nice. Nat Bhatia screwed up and letting DR and Kiara sit at his seats next to the court. But we got to understand, yes, this did affect the team, that the team missed their free throws. They missed half their free throws, and that was not normal for a 75% shooting team to go down to 50% in one of the most important games of the season. In some ways, also, yes, the team had been let down by Nick Nurse. The energy was bad because Nick Nurse had quit on the team 2 weeks before that play-in game even started. So, I mean, yeah, we can blame Nick Nurse. We can blame Bhatia. I think that you're wrong on this because DeMar very recently said this, Wayne, that he would come back and play for the Raptors again if the opportunity came up. And in fact, he'd love, and he doesn't even care if Kyle's back either at this point. He said, I would love the bookends of doing my career with the Raptors at the beginning and the Raptors at the end. So don't get it twisted. If it makes sense for us to do it and he wants to do it, he could end up retiring with us. And he won't do it like Kyle. He won't just put the jersey on for a day, sign a one-day contract, and retire as a Raptor. He'll come and play a season, one last season for us, and then retire as a Raptor. So, Wayne, he said this publicly in the last 10 days. And this blew me away that DeMar is very much interested in playing for Toronto again. He doesn't hate us that much. So that's crazy right there. And as far as I'm concerned, we're even with them. And as you said, we're over it. Yeah, we're even with them as far as the trade doing him dirty and us getting some karma back for the play-in game with DR DeRozan. So that's the way I look at it right there. Mike's saying DeMar said it himself, and after questioned whether he was wrong about not adding the 3-ball. Okay, Mike, you're arguing a point from like way earlier that I already discredited, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're telling me that DeMar sat on his laurels and said that he didn't need to improve his game anymore, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Now, he has said this. He's been very explicit in public about this, that he very much values the mid-range game and that in some ways, he's fighting for it. As one of those guys fighting for it, like for people like Alex English and Kobe Bryant, that very much believe that the mid-range game is an essential part of the league, while a lot of the people in the league are pushing it away. In fact, we could wonders this, Mike, real quick. That part of the reason why DeMar DeRozan got traded for Kawhi Leonard in the summer of 2018 is because Nick Nurse became the new coach. Right there. I could easily see Nick Nurse coming up to Masai Ujiri and saying, I don't want to coach DeMar because his mid-range game is as central as his game, and I hate the mid-range. We know it's all come out since that Nate Bjorkgren and Nick Nurse are against the mid-range, and they forbid the Raptors in recent years from taking mid-range shots because they did not want them to do it. So couldn't we wonders this, that as soon as Casey was fired as a coach, they turned around and hired Nick Nurse. And even DeMar talks about in the book, the little bit of time while he was still a Raptor and Nick Nurse was a coach, that he was very excited about the new changes and having the chance to start over in the new era of the Raptors after Dwayne Casey. But could it have been that Nick Nurse was instrumental in trading DeMar to the Spurs because he hates the mid-range game? I mean, does that make sense, Mike? That's logical to me. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I will tell you, you won't read that book, Mike, and you keep saying that, DeMar was stubborn and he didn't want to change his game like we asked him. That's bullshit. And honestly, you guys are both doing your actions that I don't appreciate from back in the day. Mike won't let go of an argument, and Jill won't stay on top. So y'all, please don't show your old heads of what y'all used to do on my channel that used to really upset me, because y'all are both coming at me with the same stuff right now. Let it go, Mike. Read the book and understand that it's not in DeMar's DNA to rest on his laurels and tell the team. If the team told him they wanted to do something, he would do it. He would try to his best ability. He did. It was proven. He went and worked on his three-point shot and came back with a three-point shot just because the Raptors asked him to. So let's keep this honest and truthful, because your perception of DeMar in this way is not accurate. And everything in the book would tell you otherwise if you read it. Seriously. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Jill, I don't know why you don't hear me. I don't know what's going on there. Cowboy's saying refresh. Okay, good. Let's see. Okay, this is an Instagram. Let me see what Tommy's put up for the Instagram real quick. This is the guy, Matt Diwu. In 2 days, will shock the world. That is it. 2 more days, Toronto. We're coming. Okay, so he's coming to the 905 workout. Okay, this is the guy. All right. In some ways, Tom, I can't go on about like tryouts for 905. It's very special that Monique's cousin was there and that you know this guy. But in some ways, I have no idea who this dude is. Okay, so that's the guy. Okay, he looks like a guard. He looks like a littler guy there. Cowboys saying later, Lex and Raptor Freaks. Have a safe and great Sunday. Let's go, Raptors. All right, all right. Fiercey saying, hey, Jill, I looked up the tickets for the Montreal game, and it would be too expensive as I need to buy 4 of them. I cannot leave out my godsons. Okay, all right. Yeah, you can't get it. All right, all right. You guys are having conversations that should happen in chats and other places and not necessarily during the chat here. Mike saying Lou Will isn't as athletic as DeMar, but he plays one side mainly and does a lot of mid-range work. I think that you're selling DeMar short. And in some ways, his defense is underrated. It may have been bad during that time, but who the fuck is going to be good against LeBron during those years? Seriously, Mike. So in some ways, once again, Mike, let's not be let's move quickly here and some subject is subject, and let's not circle back just for the sake of your ego and wanting to argue with me. Seriously. Let's see. Mike's also saying Cujo was better at utilizing the pieces around him and played more defense. Well, that's why we went in this direction with with Corey Joseph over Lou Williams. I mean, I understand why we only had Lou Williams for 1 year. In some ways, he was a one-trick pony that was used at the end of the game in certain ways. That Dwayne Casey overused him as the clutch guy at the end of the game, and everybody figured that out. You know, in some ways, there was 1 year of really building him up and getting the 6th man of the year. In some ways, it's the personnel decision. Maybe it did have something to do with him having 2 girlfriends. I don't know. In some ways, let's stay focused, y'all. Seriously, some people are coming in here and they're not focused on the right things when we're here. Yeah, Fiercey saying getting tested for purple fever. That's right. Look out. There's a lot of maladies out there. That's right. W Stream fam. Thank you, Fiercey. And thank you, Tommy, for the W's. Most saying W Stream, W Vibes. Keep at it always, Lex. Go Raptors for life. Good times are coming. There you go, Mo. I love hearing that. Yeah, I'm about 10 minutes away, and I still haven't done a bunch of stuff because I've been bogged down in a bunch of crap. A bunch of crap right here. Yeah, the North remembers. That's right, Mike. Jill saying, Lex, did you do a stream on Masai now being under Rogers' ownership? I know Chev is very worried. Cheers. Jill, if you watch my channel, you'd hear me talking about all this as it happens. So, Jill, just keep up to date on the streams. I know you're not here doing lives, but if you really want to know if I'm talking about stuff, yes, I am. The day it happens. And you did not know about the Scotty Barnes pregnancy. If you've been watching me, you know about that. And you'd also have heard my reaction about Rogers becoming the primary owner of MLSE this week. So that's all there. It's all in the streams, Jill. You just got to go back to the archive and you can find out. Mike saying Braun knew Dwight Howard was his teammate and Howard was a party alumni. What is that? What are we talking about this about? Like, this is so non sequitur. Why are we talking about Dwight Howard? Let's see. Smith saying no, the comment was in reference to Diddy and LeBron James. The 2 were coats. See, this is why I need proper nouns, y'all. This is why I need proper nouns, because Smooth's talking about LeBron James and Puff Daddy. Well, I didn't know that. In some ways, once again, LeBron's ensconced. He'll be protected just like Peyton Manning was from all of his bullshit. So, LeBron's too much money. In some ways, he's not going to be in trouble with Diddy. They'll protect him, and he'll stay out of this. Watch. Fiercely saying, in reference to LeBron comment from Smooth, I believe it has to do with P. Diddy. Sadly, I hear LeBron's name was on the list of celebrities attending the Diddy parties. Did he stay at the freak offs part? See, I don't know what you were saying when you guys said freak offs, because I'm not paying attention to Sean Combs' legal problems. I do not know. I've never heard the term freak off party until just now. So you guys really have to baby me. You can't act like I know everything, especially if it doesn't have to do with the Raptors. Seriously. If LeBron went to those parties, he went as a family man and with probably with Savannah, and there were probably nothing he did wrong other than he wanted to go to a P. Diddy party, and he was invited. I'm pretty sure he's not in there doing anything freak off like that would be a problem in any kind of way. It's just that he's guilty by association or maybe just at those parties. And he maybe regrets it to this day at this point. So I don't know. Fiercely saying it would be a scandal for the NBA if he did attend the freak offs, which is why I suspect an earlier retirement if he's involved. I don't think this will stop him. I think once again, when you get to a certain point of importance to a league and you're so centrally important, you will be protected like crazy by Adam Silver and the NBA lawyers because you're a cash cow. And I don't think you guys need to worry about LeBron and his involvement with Daddy. Seriously, you guys do not need to worry about this. Saying it's the reason Dwight Howard isn't in the league. No, Dwight Howard isn't in the league because he's older and slower. And the last couple years he played in the league, he sucked, Mike. So it has nothing to do with this sex stuff that you guys are talking about. Dwight Howard's not good enough to play in the NBA at this point. The last couple of times we saw him play in the NBA for the Lakers, he sucked. He was horrible. And that's why he's not in the league. He's in China because of that. I mean, we can read into this and this. Oh, it's sex stuff. No, Dwight Howard's past his prime. And in some ways, he's not anywhere near the player he was when he played for the Orlando Magic way, way back. So that's it right there, right? Good morning to you, Daniel. I'll say good morning to Daniel Barry, Sports Highlights, and Fiercely saying good morning to Daniel. And of course, Jill's going to say hi. All right, let's see. Stargate saying Dreamers Pro and Health and Fitness Rants are two channels that really go in on LeBron. See, it's not just Angry Hoops Fan. There's a genre of YouTube channels that come after LeBron James. Now, see, listen. I don't go after LeBron the person. Like it'd be real easy if I'm such a hater of LeBron to be like, yeah, if he's guilty with Diddy, he should go to jail. No, in some ways, I don't see this as being reality. In some ways, I know LeBron James is a good person outside the NBA and that he is doing good things and he's a family man. And in some ways, he is exactly what he looks like. So if they're going to try and tarnish his name with Sean Combs, well, good luck with that. Because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to stop you from that because they're making a lot of money off LeBron James. So I'm not worried about this, guys. And now if we're going to talk about basketball, we're going to talk about him being a whiny little bitch on the court about fouls. We're going to talk about him slinging the ball at Scotty Barnes. We're going to talk about him being a lazy-ass player on the court like Angry Hoops said is. Yeah, I'll get on top of that. But personal life and worries about a scandal with Puff Daddy, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Because honestly, I'm going to protect him like the NBA because I understand how important he is to the league. And I also understand that if this kind of shit did happen, it'd be horrible for the NBA. And the powers out there that hate the NBA would be very overjoyed. So no, don't get it twisted. LeBron James is safe because he will be safe because he's ensconced with a whole corporation around him protecting him because he is big money. Trust me, especially the year he's going into playing with his son on the Lakers. That's saying they're going to protect him. And I only got 4 minutes because there was a lot of extra stuff in the middle that was not necessary today, guys. Not necessary. The topic was Caitlin Clark. See, you're jumping around, Mike. You got to in, and you're talking about Mitchell. I thought you meant Donovan. I thought you meant Donovan Mitchell when you said that earlier. So just like I say in the classic cars, don't half-ass me with names. Write full name because Mitchell could be Sam. Mitchell could be Wiggins. Mitchell could be a whole bunch of different people. So you can't do this. Y'all need to baby me, and y'all need to stop distracting the chat too. Seriously. All right, he's saying you said it, and Jill agreed with you, and I said Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. You see, I thought you were talking about the Boston Celtics and Donovan Mitchell in your comment, Mike. That's why you got to baby me, and you cannot be half-assed with your short abbreviations and shit. You need to write it all out because I don't know what you're talking about. I'm jumping from topic to topic, and I still have a bunch of shit to do. And in some ways, I shouldn't be managing y'all for the chat. I should be doing the Instagram stories. Oh, Amari Moore celebrating the birthday of his friend right now. Happy birthday, family. I'm not even sure what his friend's name is. It's Caleb Simmons, I believe. That's what his name is. Let's see. You guys, it's Gary Trent Sr.'s birthday, guys, today. And people are saying happy birthday to Gary Trent Sr. Happy birthday, King. So the king of Virgos is having his Virgo birthday today, right at the end of Virgo season. So we love Gary Sr. Happy birthday to you, man. And he's among a lot of good friends and family on his birthday, enjoying his time. And yeah, it's just lots of smiles and good stuff. There's the liquor on the floor, too. WNBA, Tio Prez, Teresa Resch has got the latest WNBA Name Your League podcast from Friday. Y'all check it out. It's all names they rejected, some of the names they rejected for the WNBA team for Toronto. It's very interesting to hear their process and how they're going about thinking about how they're going to make this name. Kelly Olynyk's wife is out in somewhere, and there's a picture of Kelly Olynyk, a graphic on the wall, and she's saying, oh, hi. And that's kind of cool. There's like just a Kelly Olynyk picture somewhere. It looks like it might be in Legos or something. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that's his wife looking at it. And then we got Norman Powell. I think it's like his niece or something. And he's saying mood. It's a really weird picture. Let's see. There's Jacoby Walter wearing a purple suit. And I guess that's when he was drafted by the Raptors on draft day. Talking about Jacoby Walter today and the possibilities for him this season. We got Jamal Shed with a crew of his. Or no, that's Davion Mitchell, actually. That's Davion Mitchell. I got them mixed up. Sorry. Yeah, and I'm not sure what crew that is. It's probably maybe, there's Freddie Gillespie in the back. So that's his Baylor guys. So yeah, we see former Raptor Freddie Gillespie in there with Davion Mitchell. They're, of course, Baylor teammates. Jamal Shed is here with his Houston teammates on his Instagram stories, showing action shots from back in his Houston days. Well, you're going to have to start showing those Raptors and Raptors 905 highlights now, Jamal Shed, because this is the new era you're going into. He's saying happy birthday to Marcus Sasser on his Instagram also. Emmanuel quickly celebrating the 50th birthday of his mother, guys. Happy 50th birthday to Mrs. Quickly, and nice to see Emmanuel spending his mom's birthday with her. Really, really cool. So happy birthday to Mama Emmanuel's mom. Slim Duck has got something about November Scorpios, and all the people that are November Scorpios: Tiga, Diddy, Nelly, Future, Stevie J, Choppa, Beckham. And he said, y'all are some freaks over there, not coming. So Chris Boucher is calling out November Scorpios as being freaks, like Sean Combs right now. That's the flavor of the day. And he's also got, when God starts answering your prayers, you forget about mood. So it looks like Chris is in good mood. So maybe his prayers are being answered. Something good's coming down the pipeline for Chris. So this may be good. Maybe he's going to be in Darko's rotation. That's why. Raptors 905 showing clips of that's a wrap on session 1 with all the people trying out for the team. I don't see a whole lot of really tall guys in there, but it looks like there may be some talent. There's quite a few people there, though. There's like about 60 people in the first session. In the second session, we got some eyes on the 905 court. There's looks like there's some more good prospects there. There's a really tall player behind him there. Let's see, intensity picking up. That's a nice jam by that guy. Maybe we'll see Tommy's guy at the workout, maybe Monique's cousin. But yeah, we're getting a little bit of what was going on with 905 tryouts yesterday. Tryouts, if you want to make the G League team for the Raptors, well, you should have been at 905 yesterday, because that's when they were looking. They were looking at people. Siakam, once again, more footage of him and the Pacers working in Orlando. There's your Instagram stories for today. Yeah, lots going on. Emmanuel Quickly's mother turned 50 this weekend. That's right. That's awesome. That is awesome. Mike saying, I'm going to find the interview where DeMar said it and send it to you. It was during the first year or two of his Spurs era. Mike, once again, let it go. If you got little personal beefs that is just from your own perspective and you care about, I'm telling you, just read the book. And the mentality of DeMar will tell you that he is not doing what you're saying is anyway. All right. Trevor saying Grizzlies are bringing back Grizzlies Classic Edition uniform. We talked about this like 3 times, Trevor, on this channel in the last couple of days. We talked about the big Bryant Reeves jersey at least twice in the last 3 days, Trevor. Let's see. Wayne saying, if DeMar wants to come back, I'm all about it. Hang on. Let me see. That's fantastic news. His game at any stage of his career is winning basketball. Bravo, DeMar. Yeah, he's given up like any animosity towards our franchise, and he is open to the idea of coming back, which is absolutely amazing. That's a healing journey right there. And I love that. I love that so much. In some ways, that's a great role model. Instead of holding grudges or burning bridges, DeMar, even though he's done wrong, held on and stayed true. And because of that, he didn't burn the bridge. There may be better opportunities for them. There's a life lesson in that for all of us, that don't burn your bridges just in case, because down the road, opportunities may be lost because you burnt those bridges. That's right. Most telling, Trevor, that we talked about the Grizzlies jersey already. I appreciate that. Mari saying, listen, freaks, you need to stop pissing off my boy Lex. Rules are for your safety. Amari, I hope you're doing very well this weekend. I'm always thinking about you, my guy, and I'm just wishing best things for you, Omari. So I'm going to give Omari Parsons a dunk real quick. Yeah, I miss you, man, and I hope you're doing really well. Maybe I'll give you a call later on and see what's going on with you, my guy, and make sure you're doing good. All right, 23 dunks. He's got the Fred VanVleet now, Omari. Yeah, I want to call you Amari Moore for some reason. Wayne saying, love my month, but the end of September means beginning of competitive North American basketball. I'm all about that. Yeah, I'm all about that, Wayne. I'm all about that. Yeah, Mike, thank you. If you do full names, that I really will appreciate that. I'm sorry. I know it's typing it all out, but we move so quickly here. In fact, let's move some more. Leo Roughton saying this morning, the greatest gift you can receive is another day of life. Cheers to that. Hallelujah and praise the Lord on that one. That's right. Mike Fiercely saying, what is the word you say, Lex, about LeBron? He is ensconced. It means protected, I guess. Your turn to educate me again, please. All right. Since Fiercy is English is not her first language, she is asking me about the word ensconced. Ensconced is a verb or is a word for a saying that you are established, that you are like one could say that a clam is ensconced in its shell, or a pearl inside the shell is ensconced in the shell. It's basically something is up in something and it's hard to take it out. And in some ways, LeBron James is ensconced in the organization of the NBA as being a crucial part of it and a protected part of it. And that's what I mean when I say ensconced. So yeah, we did a little English lesson. That's pretty good. Monique wants me to go rest. And now Brian showed up. What's up, Freak Nation? Dang, Lex, I thought I was the king of September birthdays. Laugh out loud. So many Virgo birthdays this month, and Brian was one of them. And a happy 44th once again to Brian. He's saying it's the last 10 seasons DeMar has led in playoff points. That's interesting. I didn't know that stat. I love that. You know, it's so cool. In the book, we find out that DeMar watched a lot of tapes from the 80s. Like I said, they would tape all these games, and he would watch old school games from like the 60s, 70s, and 80s over and over again, where he'd even break the VHS tapes because he watched them so much. And one of the people that he liked to watch a lot when he was a kid was Alex English of the Denver Nuggets. Of course, Alex English, the fun fact is that he scored the most points in the whole entire decade of the 1980s in the whole entire NBA. Well, Alex English, it was important to DeMar because he watched him as a kid, and he really did learn a lot of stuff from him. He was a huge influence on him. And then later on, in his first year on the Raptors, Alex English was an assistant coach for us. That was a huge thing. And in some ways, Alex English, being a part of our organization at the time, had a huge effect on DeMar DeRozan's career. So that's kind of a cool thing right there. It's very, very cool. I love that part of it right there. Let's see. Mike's saying, I'm going to send it to, and maybe you can understand what he said maybe better. Like you said, I usually add more context to videos. I didn't know the trainer he was talking about. You know, DeMar, I just want to make sure you know that he is not rejecting the teams asking him to do stuff. In fact, he bends over backwards to do what wants him to do. Now, the one thing I will say is that DeMar is a staunch of the mid-range shot, and that people have told him to not play the mid-range or play that kind of game. He's told them to F off. So maybe that's what you're hearing that's different, that's kind of screwing you up on this, is that he's been very much like, no, the mid-range game is an essential part of the game, and we need to protect it. And in some ways, he's one of the last defenders of the mid-range game in the NBA right now. And partly, this was something he talked about with Kobe, that Kobe and him talked about the mid-range being an important part of the NBA game. And the way that the NBA has been going with people like Nick Nurse, where they do not want the teams to be taking mid-range games anymore because of analytics. Well, DeMar may be rebellious towards teams about them asking him what to do because of this mindset. But don't get it twisted. He's still going around and looking at the list of what they want him to work on and trying to fulfill those things too. Now, whether he's successful at getting good enough to do them on the court successfully in a way that's like defensive stuff, that's a whole other thing. But at least he's trying is what we're saying right there. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Mike's saying he was working on threes in defense after 2018. He said that in the same interview. He started working on the threes earlier in his career. The year that he did a lot of threes was like around 2015 or 16. And the defense stuff, he was always working on his defense. It's just that in some ways we got to understand your own natural ability with your body is going to allow for your player build in certain ways. And it's not that it's a lack of aggression or a lack of being able to try on defense. It's just that the ability may not be there completely. And he's trying. Just trust me. He's trying. Brian said mid-range is steady and creates wins. Rest in peace, Mamba. That's right. That's right there. And how close they were is one of the biggest things I take away from this book. That Kobe Bryant was such an important person in DeMar's life in so many different ways. And in some ways, what happened when he died, and it was crazy because the day Kobe died was the day we played the Spurs. And they did that whole tribute to him by holding the ball for 24 seconds and dribbling it out twice, both the Spurs and the Raptors. And man, that really hit DeMar hard. In fact, Coach Pop had told DeMar the day that Kobe died, you do not have to play today. And then what DeMar decided was Kobe would say, you need to play. You have to play. And I want you to play. So he played. But yeah, he had gotten the excuse to sit out because Coach Pop knew just how close DeMar DeRozan was with Kobe Bryant. And not only that, DeMar also said that Coach Pop was extremely close with Kobe also. Their time on the Olympics and the very respect that the Spurs coach had for the Lakers superstar in all their playoff battles over the years. So it was a tough day for everybody. I know that the Raptors felt it that day. We remember that day when Kobe died, and then we had to play DeMar and the Spurs. It was a very tough day for all the Raptors, Freddie and Kyle and all them, and then also for DeMar and the Spurs too. It's a big, big deal. Yeah. Fiercely saying mid-range is a very special skill in my demonstrates focus, athleticism, and aiming. Yeah, in some ways it's a lost art, and it's a skill that you have to learn and build on. And that's why some ways it may be dying, is because some of these young players aren't having the gumption to work on their skills, and they rest on their laurels and they cruise on their talent. And they're not trying to do the intense footwork discovery and practice that DeMar DeRozan under the guidance of Kobe Bryant. That's what I'm saying right there. Brian's saying, thanks for having me here. Time to watch my Vikings king out. All right, Brian, go Minnesota. We'll see how they do today on this NFL Sunday. Let me see. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Let me just make sure there wasn't anything I missed about talking about this. Another thing that I found out in the book is that Sam Cassell was a huge influence on DeMar DeRozan early on when he was young. Sam Cassell was actually mentoring our guy, Florida State Seminole Sam Cassell. Big, big part of DeMar DeRozan's shaping, just so y'all know. Let's see. Matt Devlin is recognizing the passing of Al McCoy. Al McCoy was the voice play-by-play for the Phoenix Suns for a long, long time. He's just passed away at the age of 91. The NBA world is mourning. Great broadcaster for the Phoenix Suns, and Matt Devlin in particular, our voice, recognizing him right now. Once again, happy birthday to Gary Trent Sr., whose birthday is today, guys. So let's celebrate old Senior. All right, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. I'm 11 minutes over. I appreciate everybody watching me today. Seriously, get this book. Get it in some sort of form. Get it in hard copy. Get it in paperback. Get it on audiobooks. No matter what you do, get it. Because honestly, if you're a Raptors fan, you're a real one, you need to know DeMar's story. You need to know the truth. And you need to know what makes this guy tick and what made him go through the gauntlet of emotions to write this book and do something for the world. In some ways, DeMar makes it very, very clear that he is in service to his old community and to people and humanity in general. That talking about mental health is bigger than basketball. And he is doing some things that are showing and breaking stereotypes and things that say men can't be emotional, men can't have feelings, men can't go through things. Well, they can. And DeMar is a role model for everybody on that. And the fact that he goes and he does so much for Compton in today now is so special too. He's a giving person that just cares. And in some ways, he's a deeply sensitive person that can be vulnerable and can be hurt very deeply. But because he gets hurt so deeply, he's able to search inside himself to find a new strength and be fine. Sometimes the people that are so open and so vulnerable about themselves are the strongest because they're able to publicly show all of their sadness and their things that go through, and they still stand on it. And they still stand there and they show an example of how to get through it. And that's why I love DeMar beyond basketball. I loved him as a player all along. But now, since he's wrote this book, I love him for what he's given the world as far as the talk about mental health. So kudos to you, DeMar DeRozan. Go out and get this book, y'all. Don't waste any time. Read it, and read it again. That's right. Right there. Jill saying, sorry, I upset you so usually make anyone so angry. I did get ADHD assist, so hopefully we'll be better if I come back. I'm still learning lots in reference to basketball. I love you, Jill. Seriously, don't get it twisted. It's that once again, I've asked you very specifically not to have side conversations in my chat with other people where you guys are discussing going to the Montreal game together. In some ways, get Fiercey's information and talk to her directly on Facebook. I know that y'all are both in the Facebook chat, and that conversation doesn't have to happen here. And in some ways, once again, there's like 20 comments that are like just hello back and forth. And once again, it's kind of weird because Mike is kind of doing the thing he used to do too that used to irk me. And y'all are both doing it today. So it's whatever. I should be more tolerant. Yes. And in some ways, I should be more allowing of this. But Jill, I want you to talk to me. And in some ways, when you come in here, you ignore me is basically. It's like I feel like you're coming in here. This is me being very real. Is you come in here and you you talk to everybody else, and you do hardly ever direct any comments towards me. And this is what this is, a two-way street towards me, not a cul-de-sac and a neighborhood going to everybody else's house. This is the Raptor Freak stream. I'm here to take questions and talk about subjects with you guys. And when you ignore me in my own stream, that's detrimental, is what I'm saying right here. So that's a big part of it, Jill. If you can understand what I just said, that's why I get so pissed. It's because I'm wasting my time on here reading your high comments and stuff like that when we should be talking about Raptors basketball. We should be talking about DeMar DeRozan's book. And we shouldn't be trying to arrange going to the game with a Fiercey, because you could do that in the Facebook chat. And if you want to say hi to everybody, that's great. But I can't do this hi thing every single day because it's going to make me 15 minutes over my 2 hours. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's part of it right there. But Fiercely saying mental health matters. I totally agree. Thank you guys for watching me today. I'll be back with a Monday Moment tomorrow and 9:30 a.m. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for everything y'all do. David, Trevor, Monique, Tom, Fiercey, Jillian, Cowboy, Mike, everybody. Thank you all for the stuff that you guys do around this channel. I really do appreciate you. Even if I'm ornery and kind of I'm going through a lot. You know, I've separated with Adriana, and things are very difficult for me emotionally. So if I'm a little more testy these days, that's why. Just so y'all know, I've just ended a 5-year relationship with my girlfriend. So that's it right there. All right, y'all. Love you.